Okay, says we're live, so probably live. Welcome everyone, this is On Just Restart. I am joined by my good friend and co-host Brandon, and tonight, as usual, every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we talk about Nintendo. So as the title suggests, we are questioning a Nintendo Direct announcement tomorrow. I believe there's an announcement tomorrow. Could I be wrong? Yes. So if nothing happens tomorrow and you want to attack me, keep in mind this is my opinion. That said, I feel pretty good about it. So I expect a Direct announcement tomorrow. You want to attack him?
Go for it. Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Send me all the hate mail. Send me all the pitchforks and torches. But there's a lot of reason to think a Direct is happening really soon. We're going to talk about that. Yeah. We're going to talk about why I think the announcement is happening tomorrow. And we're also going to talking about this Star Fox Armada game that could have happened. So This is kind of interesting. Did you know Gaming posted a video recently talking this project that was never greenlit at Retro Studios, but it was this brilliant idea for a Star Fox game called Star Fox Armada. So we're going to be talking about that as well, and I think it's really cool, and I definitely recommend you check out the video at Did You Know Gaming about it. I actually have the link here. Post it in the chat for you guys, and it'll be in the description a little bit later. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming, as such viewers will experience buffering. Let me know if that fixes. That should not be normal. Yeah, I think that's just a temporary thing. Should be back to normal soon, I'm assuming. You can hear me, right, Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay.
You do a little bit of a slight bit of robot sometimes, but it's fine. Understandable, at least.
Is it that bad?
It's just uh-oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Jeez. Not sure what I can do. Alright, let me see if they're doing something weird downstairs. Because it's still bad. This is just, I think this is just a provider issue. Okay, look, now it's saying 2,000 kilobytes per second. One moment. One moment. Hey, Danny, are you doing anything weird with the internet? It's not working. The upload speed is at like a half a bit, like, down. It's pretty bad. Okay.
That was my internet for a bit.
You guys can probably hear me. Alright.
I mean, you could lower like the bitrate of the stream, but you'd have to end the stream momentarily to do that.
Say that again, Brandon.
I said you could like lower the bitrate of your stream, but you'd have to end the stream to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't normally, this never happens, so I'm not really sure what to do.
You're clearing up for me though. Smooth and not robot-y anymore.
I don't know.
A momentary hiccup.
It might be okay. Looks like it might be normalizing. All right, I see it in the green now. Okay, all right. It might have just decided to start working randomly again. I think. All right. Let me know if things start to work well now. It seems to have normalized on my end, because I was getting like right now I'm above like 5,000 kilobits per second, right? And before it was like at 90. So, should be working now. All right, cool. All right, cool. All right. All right, everyone's saying it's looking good now. Thank you guys for being patient and sticking around. Please like the stream. Sorry for the bad
technical difficulties.
Bad initial technical difficulties. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about maybe a direct announcement tomorrow, and we're also going to be talking about this Star Fox Armada thing, whatever else comes up. we do have a call-in segment planned for about an hour from now. So I believe I was talking to Nish Quick Pops. Nish Quick Pops will pop in here a little bit later, and we'll join the conversation a bit to talk about the Nintendo Direct, Fire Emblem, maybe Star Fox. And this is, a call-in segment. Anyone who's like a member, a Patreon member or YouTube member can join in for these whenever we go live. So, if you ever want to do that, just shoot me a message, be it on Twitter or Discord, and we can set something up. But with that all said, Brandon, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Just been a lot of work things, but in my personal life, I've just been playing more Kirby and played GoldenEye the other day. We were playing Mario Kart together the other day.
Yeah.
We were also trying to play Splatoon, but it was not working. We were trying for a long time. That was a whole ordeal, actually. I'm starting to get really upset with how bad, the Switch's Wi-Fi chip is, because I don't have this issue with my TV, which is in the exact same position, basically in the same spot, or my Xbox, which is on the same mantle. But we got it working, and we were playing Mario Kart, and that was fun. Been playing more games lately. That's been fun. Even played some Star Fox 64, because that's one of my most nostalgic games.
Yeah, we were just kind of chatting about that briefly before we went live. Change the light there. It's kind of neat. There's a good amount of games on N64 online that, it's kind of I think a decent lineup. The fact that we at least have a couple rare games on there is pretty nice, and it is interesting that Star Fox 64 is there, just because we're going to be talking a little bit about Star Fox tonight. But Star Fox 64, I would say, is a pretty good game to kind of go back to.
Holds up.
Yeah.
I say the default control scheme on a Pro Controller.
Why?
Is not good.
Why are they calling me right now? Why is Nintendo Prime calling me right now? What are you doing?
What is happening?
No.
The secret calling.
I'm gonna answer. Whatever.
Yo, just join.
Why did you join? I am live on the podcast right now, and I see this
I know.
call.
That's why are you in here then?
I don't know. I guess you guys going live later. Is that what's going on?
No, I don't know. Mike wanted to talk to us.
Okay, but I'm live right now. I'm literally doing the podcast.
Yeah, I know. You can go. It's okay.
Okay. All right. I just saw a call. I'm hanging up. Bye.
All right, bye.
We'll talk later.
Bye. All right. Hold on a second. Let me call Brandon back. I'm sorry, Brandon. You there?
Yeah. You gotta add me to the other call, or add him to this call. Either way.
I do not know. And now, I can't get my camera back. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah. I don't know why they called me.
Well, that happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, I'll talk to them later. But yeah, so it's cool. It's cool that, we have access to those N64 games, and whenever we talk about some Nintendo games that aren't available yet on the Switch, like a dedicated new version to it, like a Star Fox, like a Donkey Kong, it's kind of, well, do we have Donkey Kong 64 yet? Is Donkey Kong 64 there? No, it's not.
Is it?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
So. I recall playing it recently, but I don't think it was on the Switch.
We don't have Donkey
Must
Kong
have been
64.
on the Wii U.
We do not. Doesn't exist.
No. Yeah, because I think I had to go to the Wii U to play it last.
Yeah, so no Donkey Kong 64 on the N64 Classic or online yet. Anyway, all technical difficulties and random calls to the side, and nonsense. Hopefully everything is looking and sounding okay now. Guys, please let me know if it's working well, okay? But let's check in with the chat, and then we'll dive into these topics.
All right.
Charles Shadell, hello. Nishquick Pops, hello. Paul Dune, hello. Dragon G, hello. SAH Golem. I'm trying not to get my hopes up for a direct this week so as not to be disappointed, but I also can't help but feel excited.
I feel you on that one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally.
It's like my defense mechanism most of the time is just not believe it's going to happen ever, and then just be excited. But for some reason, I really feel like maybe it's real soon.
Yeah. You know, from my perspective, right? Like, yesterday, I was thinking, okay, what are we going to talk about tomorrow for the podcast? You know, I was just watching this thing about Star Fox Armada, which I thought was really cool. I was like, okay, we should talk about that. And then I was like, oh, well, I do think they're announcing an Nintendo Direct on Tuesday. For Wednesday, I think they're gonna announce the Direct tomorrow for Wednesday. And
right.
Everything seems to be lining up with that. Nate the Hate says there's gonna be a Direct. Jeff Grubb has said there's gonna be a Direct this week. And if you look at all the February Directs, they always happen on a Wednesday, and they're usually announced a day beforehand. So I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, it checks out. I mean, I think there's a Direct. There's other reasons, right? If you've been paying attention to the channel, I've put out videos telling you the different signs sort of suggesting that something is happening soon. But I was like, yeah, I think there's a Direct tomorrow. Well, an announcement tomorrow, right? So I was like, all right, let's just talk about it for the podcast. But now that I've made the title and I've gone live, like, oh, but what if there isn't?
What if there's not?
But what if there's not?
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So please keep in mind, it is phrased as a question. The title is Nintendo Direct announcement tomorrow, ? And I am telling you, I do not know if it's going to happen tomorrow. But I am willing to bet money on it.
I do know, but I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, that would be lying.
I'm just going to keep it a secret. I just don't feel like telling you.
Okay. Anyways, you know, I think it is good to always still stay level-headed, right? Like, don't get too high, don't get too low.
Yeah.
That said, sometimes it is fun to kind of go all the way, right? But
because as long as you know to not be like soul crushed after it doesn't happen,
right? Just
you gotta know that like eventually these announcements are gonna happen. Eventually, Direct's gonna come. Like Nintendo's not just gonna, well, most likely they're not just gonna die and never release another good game. So just as long as you have a little bit of patience and don't expect all of your predictions to come true and your timelines to come true, you can go as hog wild as you want.
Right.
Just gotta reel yourself back in when everything comes crashing down around you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how things can just happen sometimes and you just don't know how it's going to shake out. But I see I have a super chat here. Let me check on that. Taker610 with the super chat. Thank you very much, buddy. Andres used Stream Fixer. It was very effective. Looks like it worked, so I'm okay with that. I will say
Streamfixer.exe.
I can't see the preview anymore. It's just a constant circle, so I'm just trusting you guys telling me that it's looking and sounding okay. I do see a little on the YouTube side of things. There's something that says like there's like a little circle. It's green and it says excellent connection. And when it was bad, it was like yellow. Hey, you're not getting enough feed right now. No, there's not enough information coming in. Then when I checked my stream software, which is just the free OBS, it was in the red, and now it's in the green. So from what I can see, it looks fine, but I don't see the visual evidence.
And on my end, I can see like because before you were like choppy and robot-y, and now you're all good. So
yeah, it was just a random blip, I guess. Right at the start.
Yeah, weird.
Anyways.
Everybody in your area was using the internet at the same time.
Maybe everyone was like, "Oh my God, there's a Nintendo Direct," and all the bandwidth just got sucked
videos.
up. Yeah. There you go.
Uploading theory videos.
That's what happened. Having Hope 5, hello. Diego, hello. Diego says, I'm on time this week. Last week, Brandon said he wouldn't forgive me for being late, but I'm making up for it this time. Whoa. That was before we went live, by the way. I'm still catching up. Yeah.
When did I say that?
I don't know, but you said it.
Earlier I said that.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
meant it to.
Look, let me make something clear for everyone watching. We got about 125 people watching. That's super awesome, guys. If you could like the stream, I see we have 125 people watching, 34 likes. Let's try and get to 100 likes, please. Be super appreciated. Anyway, there's something I want to say though, because someone messaged me, and I've seen other people. This happened on other channels too. Apparently, there are these like bots or hackers out there, or some sort of like spamming thing going on, where they will copy the avatar of the YouTube account, go into the comments, have a name that sounds like it's like somewhat official, that's based off the channel, but like a secondary name for the channel, and they're telling people, oh, you just won a brand new computer, oh, you just won a brand new car or Xbox. Yeah, and they're trying to so there's no current active giveaways on the channel right now. Okay, I'm not saying there will never be, I'm not sure, but
Andres, I'm the lucky winner of an iPhone 14.
Not from me. Not from me. Yeah. Just be aware that if I'm not announcing anything like publicly, like now in a stream or in a video, or it's not coming through like an official channel that you know is like my main account for something, do not believe that. The internet is a dangerous, wild world out there where there's all sorts of people trying to trick you and steal your credit card information or what have you. So don't believe those bots.
Even replicate your voice and make it look like you say stuff. So don't believe it unless it comes from this channel
or my Twitter.
Not that I think there's a ton of people using that at the moment, but you never know in the future.
Yeah. Anyways, just be careful. Pay attention to the actual source. Make sure it's the actual source, and this extends to all sorts of things, including an Nintendo Direct, right? Like when you see, like when you're on Twitter and you see the announcement, oh, Nintendo Direct, and then people are like excited about it. Check the date, and also check the user who's posting it, and see if it actually says Nintendo of America or if it says like Nintendo of Africa or something. Like
go to their homepage and see what's up.
Make sure every character matches perfectly. Yeah. Look for the check mark maybe. There's different things. Yeah, I get it. People can be fooled, so just be careful. Especially now people are coming up with all sorts of things to get people excited. All right.
Tricks are getting more and more sophisticated.
Yeah. We're still not even sure about that Zelda OLED leak.
Yeah. True. Might know soon though.
Okay. So from what I can see, you guys saying in the chat, everything's looking fine.
Good.
Celtic 14 is asking, will Brandon live react with you for the Direct? We need a repeat of excitement like Breath of the Wild reaction. Woo.
I mean, it depends on when it is.
Brandon, let's assume we're right, okay? We may not be, but let's assume they announce the Direct tomorrow and it happens on Wednesday. What is your work schedule like on Wednesday?
4 to 11, I think.
4 a.m. or 4 p.m.?
PM.
4 p.m.
4 p.m.
So
it really depends on what time.
Yeah, so it would have
maybe they'll have it early in the morning. Sometimes they do.
Yeah. Maybe they'll have it early in the morning. But if not, you know what I'm gonna do? We're gonna look up there's been 3 February Directs. We're gonna look up when they aired, and maybe we can get a good idea. Let's do that now. Let's
idea of how screwed I am or not.
Yeah. I'm expecting it to be at 5 p.m. but I hope not.
Oh god.
5 p.m. my time would be 4 p.m. your time, which would be right when you have to leave for work. So, and obviously you have to prepare for work. Well, you would leave for work beforehand. Yeah, so you probably would need the Direct to happen like 2 or 3 hours earlier. Two hours would probably still be kind of pushing it, but you might be able to squeeze it if you really wanted to. All right, so when did this Nintendo Direct air? Will it tell me if I look up the Direct archive, or do I have to look up like the tweet? Like, do they tell you?
Maybe better off looking up just tweets of Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, it's a little harder.
Can you just look up like February Nintendo Directs? Usually they have like the
Direct archive doesn't tell me
in the picture. Well, no, you can just look up pictures on Google and then just come up with the images of like
Okay,
the
so
tweets they send out, right?
2/9/22 Nintendo Direct tweet.
I was just thinking like February Nintendo
Alright,
Directs
so-
in general should come up with like all the February Directs.
All right, so I'm looking here. All right, so last year, the Nintendo Direct was on the 9th, which was at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Like I said. By the way, just double checking. I already know the answer to this, but I'm just double checking. February 9th was a Wednesday. Okay, so February 9th, 5 p.m. But we also had a February Nintendo Direct in 2021, right? So let's look that up. All right, so was it 16? What was it? Was it the 16th?
I just remember it was like the second
2/17/22 Nintendo Direct tweet. I'm pretty sure it's to the. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. Or am I?
Or are you?
I don't know. I am. Not wrong.
No.
The reason I was wrong is
roller
I was wrong though because I typed 22.
Oh.
I meant 21, but yeah.
21.
But the day of the month I was right on. All right. Okay. Nintendo Direct tweet. What was the time for that one? Tune in 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. So far the last 2 years it's been at 5 p.m. Eastern time on a Wednesday.
Well, this is just great.
It's not looking good for you, Brandon.
It is not.
Let's
It's
double
really
check.
not,
Is 21
guys.
was 21 also on a Wednesday? I know it is, but I'm still checking anyway. 17. No, actually, no.
What?
Oh.
Thursday?
Yeah, 2/17/21. Oh, that's 22. All right, hold on.
Look at the right year. God damn.
Yeah, it was on a Wednesday.
Okay.
It was on a Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Yep. But you have some hope, Brandon, because I do remember another February Direct that was February 13th, 2019. What time was this Direct? 2/13/19 Nintendo Direct tweet. Tune
It's
in
5 p.m. on
Tune in February 13th at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m.
No,
Eastern
no.
time. Yeah.
I'm so
I'm sorry,
screwed.
fam.
It's over.
I'm sorry.
It's
Look,
no
I'm going to show
hope.
you guys, in case you guys don't want to take my word for it. Hold on. That's not how I'm going to show you. How am I going to show you?
God, it's looking bad. It's looking real bad.
Yeah, it's not looking good. It is not looking good. There we go. Right, so that is for the February Direct on the 19th in 2019. It was on a Wednesday, the 13th, 5 p.m. Eastern time, and then. Well, do I have to look up the? Then this is also 5 p.m. Eastern time. And the last 3 February Nintendo Directs have all been at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So there you go. That's when it's probably happening.
Yuck.
That is
Yuck,
it.
yuck, yuck.
Yeah.
That's not what you like to hear.
I'm sorry, Brandon.
Me, at least.
You either you're gonna have to take a break from work, or you're gonna have to pray Nintendo changes their pattern. Pattern suggests that the Nintendo Direct is going to be announced a day in advance. So if it is happening on the 8th on a Wednesday, as it has happened the last 3 February Directs on a Wednesday, and it's this week, as both Nate the Hate and Jeff Gruber are saying, which also falls in line with the pattern with being either the first or second full week of the month, then probably gonna be
guys, I just might be sick that day. It could happen.
Dude, I
You
mean,
don't know
come
what
on.
could happen.
Well,
I could get sick.
hopefully find out tomorrow, right? Hopefully
I can get real sick.
Yeah.
I could start feeling real sick from all the stress and the anticipation of this Direct, after it gets announced. I'll just be feeling real bad. Way too bad to work. entirely too bedridden, even, I'm sure.
Brandon, it's gonna be unfortunate to not have you for the reaction. You know, like, because this could be the direct where we get the Metroid Prime HD. We're gonna see this supposed all right, it's just a possibility. Could happen later in the year. Maybe it doesn't happen at all, right? But there is a distinct possibility we see Metroid Prime HD. And it's not supposed to be just a little remaster. It's more of an actual remake, and that's gonna look stunning. Brandon, you and I have been waiting for this for a long time. I know you're a graphics nut, so not having you there with me to witness what could be Metroid Prime in a modern graphical engine, come on.
Whoa.
Right? And
that
this
would
is
suck.
And then as brought up in the chat, you remember when they gave us the first trailer for Tears of the Kingdom? Our reactions was crazy. My voice was gone for days. You dropped so many F-bombs. I don't know how that video wasn't demonetized, right? We went nuts. It's gonna be unfortunate if you're not there to finally see the legit blowout trailer for Tears of the Kingdom.
It doesn't come hell or high water. I'll be there.
Random shout out to Birdman Senpai. Thank you for coming in, buddy. I noticed your avatar, which is the Ouroboros Tears of the Kingdom symbol, so I just think that's pretty cool. Let's see here. Got another super chat from Samuel A. Thank you very much for super chat, Samuel. Samuel says, hello, what have I missed so far? Plus, do you think Metroid Prime HD remake is announced this week? I do think Metroid Prime HD is announced this week, but can I be wrong? 100%, right? So
I'm 50-50 right now.
Right, let's dial it back a little bit. We had a whole bunch of technical issues. I've been very scatterbrained to start this stream. But let me okay. All right. I'm stabilizing, right? I'm now obtaining a straight head.
Are you restarting?
Somewhat, yes. Okay. Let me take a little water.
Had to, sorry.
So, just to recap, we looked at the last 3 February Nintendo Directs, and each one was on a Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah.
And they were announced a day in advance. So,
yes.
My prediction is that
usually
Nintendo
in the morning, I believe.
I'm assuming.
Am I correct on that?
Well, noon is when I kind of. Well, you know what? Let's double check that. Okay, so 9 a.m. No, it depends. Last year, they announced it at 5 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. They announced it. Well, hold on. No. That's a mistake. That's wrong. They.
Wrong?
No, that was just when they posted the stream. So, the actual announcement, I didn't find that one. What do I put tune in? Maybe that'll. Okay, I think I found it. The initial tweet from Nintendo. So, Nintendo tweeted at 9 a.m. I'm assuming 9 a.m. my time, 9 a.m. Eastern time. So,
yeah, it's going to be displayed in your time.
So 2019, they did it at 9 a.m. 2022 at 9 a.m. I'm assuming that the same applies also for 2021, that they tweeted it.
Memory serves.
Yeah.
It does.
So then...
I remember it's usually in the morning.
Right.
But I usually wake up to the announcement.
Nintendo Direct, announcement, Twitter, 2/17/21.
Ooh, it almost feels like Christmas because I feel like I could wake up to the announcement of a direct. It's
9 a.m.
so weird because I don't even feel like this around Christmas time anymore. So it's like a weird feeling I haven't felt in a while.
So double checked. Every time they've tweeted announcing a February Nintendo Direct, it's been at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and it's the day beforehand. And when the day it happens, it's at 5 p.m. Eastern time, and it's always been on a Wednesday. So,
I'll probably wake up to work tomorrow. And they'll announce the direct.
So they've had a pretty consistent schedule here. So tomorrow, 9 a.m. If it's not announced at 9 a.m., then
start the tweets. Get the
Yeah.
pitchforks.
I wouldn't. So this is my take, right? Here's my take for you. Okay, when we wake up tomorrow, and it's past 9 a.m. Eastern time, and there's still no announcement from Nintendo about a direct the next day, I would then assume.
We all grab a Discord chat and we start crying together.
I would then assume that the direct is not happening on Wednesday and it's happening next week.
Yeah.
That would be my assumption.
I mean,
Nintendo
yeah.
could still they could still announce it later into the day. They could still announce it later into the week. Like, there's still a lot of room for flexibility there. But in terms of what I think is a likelihood, I would just think they pushed it up a week. Because we have a pattern. Literally every February Direct, every General February Direct, it's been announced at 9 a.m. It's happened on a Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Like the announcement's the day before and at 9 a.m.
The
like
first or the second full week of February, right? Usually the first.
Right, first or second full week. Yeah. So, I don't think I don't expect the pattern to break, right? But the pattern also accounts for maybe February 15th being the direct. The reason why we're thinking it happens this week instead of next week is purely because there's actually a couple of big reasons. One, both Nate the Hate and Jeff Grubb, two separate people with inside sources on this stuff, who have great track records when it comes to direct timing. Yes, there's been different games that haven't shown up when they thought they would. Yes. Even the Switch revision stuff, yes. But when it comes to direct timing, they have always been right. And both of them, independently, are saying a direct is this week. And when you consider that the history says either this week or next week, it lines up. Last week Nintendo retweeted 100 days to go for Tears of the Kingdom on multiple sites of theirs. I think that does say something. Also, the pre-order, the eShop codes, the NSU IDs for both Tears of the Kingdom and Advance Wars changed recently on the eShop. And Advance Wars has gone up for multiple pre-orders everywhere in Canada. Amazon, Best Buy, Walmart. So, yeah, maybe either A, the game's only coming out in Canada, or there's a direct releasing. So,
those Canadians, they don't care about the war.
There's a lot of smoke here. Still totally possible for tomorrow, for sure. But signs are pointing towards it happening soon. And I know some people are hoping for a direct on a Tuesday. But, as we've said...
I even predicted it.
You did. You were predicting for something to happen that hasn't happened. We have never seen a February Direct happen on a Tuesday. The Tuesday Directs are specifically with E3 showcases. So you going for the Tuesday thing was you like, you know what? This... Yes, and you said it. You said, back when you made that prediction, that I understand that this probably won't happen because there's no historical context suggesting that at this time of the year they will do a direct on a Tuesday, but I'm going for it. You went for it. And who knows?
I just went for the earliest possible timeline that we thought might happen.
Right, and they could shadow drop it. Like, that's not impossible, but I don't expect that. I don't think you expect that at this point either.
40 my time.
Brandon, do you hope they just shadow drop the direct tomorrow? Is that what you're saying?
Shadow drop. Oh yeah, I get what you mean. It's like not announce it.
Yeah, they just available tomorrow to watch.
No, because the only times they do that is for direct minis, and there's no way they're putting a Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I doubt there'd be like a lot of information that we want to see Tears of the Kingdom and other games as well in a direct mini. Plus, we need more than a direct mini, I think. So they're not gonna shadow drop it.
Yeah, I doubt that. You can't have Tears of the Kingdom in a direct and call it a direct mini.
Yeah,
you just can't you can't do that. So either A, maybe it's just a Zelda direct, like they can do that, which I'd still be okay with.
That'd be hype. Yeah, honestly, that'd be kind of almost more hype for me personally.
We'll see.
I was a big fan of that E3 when it was all Zelda all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, dream come true.
Yeah. I see we have a little bit over 200 people watching, which is awesome. We haven't been that high in a while. I'm assuming other people are excited for the direct. But I see we're at 70 likes, so we can get that closer to the 200 people that are watching. That would be super helpful. We'll get more people to watch to watch the stream. Yeah, we got about 200 people watching.
Oh my gosh. Thank you guys.
Yeah. like the stream, guys. It's super helpful. I would really appreciate it. But let's get into the chat here, and let's just kind of go through different things. If you guys have different questions, ideas, or theories, please bring them into the chat, and we will go through them. Charles Shadell, everything is fine since the Nitty Prime call and Magic Wander or something. Yeah, you know what? Maybe both Nate and Mike, they saw that my stream was failing. Like, hey, let's just give Andres the internet booster and call him on Discord, because Discord is the master of all. And if Discord wants the call to go through, they will just give you magical better internet. Maybe that's what they were doing. They had my back. That's what it was. Yeah, the direct is happening on Wednesday, I think. Based off the February pattern, right? So February directs happen on Wednesdays. Thursday directs usually happen on set like, I don't know. Nintendo used to do a lot of Thursday directs, but yeah, September. All right, here, let's see here. That Diverse Gamer, do you think F-Zero GX Remaster will be announced at the direct this week? And do you think it could include online support and a track editor?
Ooh.
All right. I don't know when they're going to announce. I do believe that F-Zero GX is coming this year. Okay. I've heard multiple sources on it. Right? I'm not. When I say I've heard like there are multiple sources on it publicly that have come out. Right?
Yeah.
Nate the Hate. Nintendo sources. Prime has heard things. Silex Hunter, who has a good track record, a spotless track record actually. They've all said F-Zero. Other sites have corroborated this and said they've heard similar things as well. So F-Zero seems to be like one of those poorly kept secrets that it seems to be coming. And it has been specified multiple times as an F-Zero GX remaster, but I think there's not
GX
that much.
Is the GameCube one?
Yes, the best one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think the music in the N64 one's better, but it's just because it's more rock based.
I get what you mean. I do like the F-Zero X soundtrack, but I also love the GX soundtrack too. I think they're both amazing.
Oh yeah, they're great. Yeah, they're both great, but I just like the more metal focus of X, I guess is what it's called, right?
Yeah, F-Zero X. The N64 is F-Zero X. Yeah. But anyways, I do agree. For first, in terms of the timing of when it's coming, I think it's either going to get announced in this direct or in the summer. I'm leaning, just for the sake of my optimism, I'm leaning towards it being announced for this direct, but really I'm just 50-50 on it. Because I think it just kind of depends on when Nintendo is releasing this game. Is this game coming out in the summer? If this game is coming out in the summer, then I do expect it to be announced during the direct. If the game is coming out closer to the fall, they may not announce it until the summer. So that's where I'm kind of unsure. But in terms of what I think they're going to add to the game, I do think there's going to be online play. To what extent, that's kind of a little bit challenging, because F-Zero X has 30 racers on the track during the typical Grand Prix mode and story mode. It depends on the segment, but it can go up to 30 different racers, and to do that online might be kind of challenging. However,
we got Fortnite and Apex Legends.
True.
100 players in each.
Yeah.
Maybe Apex is not 100, but it's close.
I mean, it is also a GameCube game, right? It's a GameCube
game, a remaster. We're not sure how much of a remaster. Nintendo's remasters are kind of like hit or miss on the quality. I mean, they're always quality, but hit or miss on how far they go.
Like how significant of an upgrade it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, F-Zero GX is one of the best looking GameCube games that ran at 60 frames per second. So they would have to still have to be a 60 frame per second game. And it's a very high speed game. So it would be I do think online play might be a little challenging. I do believe it will be there. I'm just skeptical that they'll maintain the 30 racers. They may dock that number down a bit. I just hope it's still enough that it still feels good. Maybe 20 or 16 or something like that. As for a track editor, I'm not sure about a track editor. I know the game has a vehicle editor, and there was the F-Zero X expansion for N64 that had a track editor with 64DD. I don't know if they'll have a track editor this time. That would be cool, though. I would love to see that. But what I am predicting for
Hopefully if they
F-Zero GX,
do,
yeah.
I hope if they have a track editor, you can share the tracks online. Otherwise, I
Oh
don't care.
man.
If I can't play, because I don't want to make my own tracks really, I just want to play other people's tracks.
Well, I mean, listen, if they remaster F-Zero GX and visually it's substantial and they have a solid online experience, they can do Death Race online, you can do the typical races online, you can do Grand Prix online, and they add a track editor where you can just share your different tracks with each other and challenge each other
Even
on
if
them.
it's a code that you have to get off like Twitter or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they sometimes do. That's fine. It's not that optimal. I want like a menu that I can like search through in the
like
game.
Mario Maker.
Yeah. But sometimes they don't go that robust. But as long as there's some kind of way for me to play other people's tracks.
Yeah. That would be cool. If they did all that, I think that would be amazing. I am not sure about a track editor though. That it would be nice. I'm just not sure they would do it because that definitely would be a whole light layer of work. But what I am personally predicting, because we have seen that with pretty much every quality Nintendo remaster, they've added. Well, okay, there's some exceptions, but most of them they add a new expansion to the game. So 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, they added a new Mario campaign. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition added Future Connected, a new Xenoblade campaign. Pikmin 3 Deluxe added the Olimar and Louie missions, for example. Heck, even Mario Kart 8 Deluxe added an entire battle mode, right? And supposedly, so yeah, it is pretty good. Even though battle mode's not really my cup of tea, it's still pretty good.
How dare you?
It is rumored that Return to Dreamland Deluxe maybe getting an epilogue campaign as well. We'll see if that's confirmed in the direct, but we've seen a box art suggesting that, the leak maybe. So there's some rumors, but if you look at excluding Zelda, Nintendo's remasters have new content. Actually, Link's Awakening Remake, it included the Color Dungeon, and it added another dungeon in the Dungeon Maker. So there's a Dungeon Maker in there as well. So that is crazy that they had a Dungeon Maker in Link's Awakening Remake. So even for Zelda games where they usually don't do that, they did it for that one. So I do think they're gonna add some new content, and my prediction for GX is they're gonna add a new cup, like 5 more new tracks, and that would be exciting. Just to get new F-Zero tracks, that would be amazing. And if there's a track editor there in there as well, that would just be crazy. And maybe
that they would.
Go on.
I'm just wondering if they would add new tracks. Because it depends on how much a remaster it is. Do they go back and use the original tools and then have to use to make? Because otherwise you have tracks that don't look the same. With Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, they made a lot of new assets and stuff, and the game looked radically better. So when they made new content, they could make it look pretty much the same. But if they just do a basic remaster, then they need to go back and use the same tools they use to create the game to create more content.
Yeah, I actually I'm optimistic it's gonna look relatively new. I don't know. I'm very optimistic. Well, how many basic remasters has Nintendo done on the Switch that have been first party published things? People bring up 3D All-Stars and Skyward Sword HD. Those are kind of the exceptions, but 3D All-Stars is 3 Mario games in one package, and also it was Super Mario that was going to sell regardless of what they did to it, right? They still added Bowser's Fury to 3D World Deluxe. That was
I think they'll definitely add something. But I kind of argue that the online and probably a track editor might be easier than making new tracks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of have a feeling that there's an argument there.
I really am. I'm not sure.
Without being a developer who's ported games from
I don't know
old consoles,
I don't know. The one thing I feel confident in saying though is that I think most Nintendo remasters that aren't named Mario and Zelda probably are going to have some sort of expanded content added to them. So I feel pretty good about saying that for F-Zero GX. If that amounts to a track editor and a new cup or some combination of that with good online support, I feel pretty good. I would feel pretty good about it. So I see we got another super chat here from friend of the channel, Mike Odyssey, who was briefly on the stream earlier. Mike says, you missed a part of the pattern. When Nintendo has a mainline game coming out in February, Direct is a third week, no mainline game Direct second week. We talked about this a little bit during the podcast. I mean, I would have to go back and look at each February. I mean, why not? Let's just double check that, right? So,
can you say that one more time? Because I don't think I fully understand.
Okay.
Like, read his comment again?
Yes. Well, Nintendo has a mainline game coming out in February. The Direct is a third week. No mainline game, Direct second week.
Okay.
So
which would mean that it would be this week, right? Because there's no, like, big game coming out this month other than Kirby, but it's just such a remaster, so does that count?
See, there's a lot of gray area here, right? Because, second week, when you say week, do you mean full week or you just mean week?
I
right?
assume he's saying second week because they don't include the first week because it's not a full week. It's like second week's first full week and third week's the second full week. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah, and then the other thing is, does Return to Dreamland Deluxe count? So we have 3 February Directs. We can trace this back, right? So for last year, right, we had Pokemon Legends Arceus come out last January, right? It came out a little bit over a year ago at this point. What was the February game though?
Do not remember.
I can look this up real quick. Nintendo published games. I think this divides it by year. I can figure it out pretty quick. This only says year, but it's kind of in order. So in 2022, Legends Arceus, and then Kirby and the Forgotten Land came out in 2022, but there was Triangle Strategy, which I think was an early March release.
When did Kirby come out?
End of March. So Triangle Strategy came out at the beginning of March, and Kirby's Forgotten Land, not to confuse that with Return to Dreamland Deluxe. So many Kirby games. Forgotten Land came out March 25th. So there was no major Nintendo game that came out last February, and the Direct for last February was the first full week of the it was on the 9th. So going back to what Mike was saying, when Nintendo's a mainline game coming on February, Direct is a third week, no mainline game second week, or first full week. Okay. So then
that's the pattern.
Okay, now then 2021 though, when we look at 2021, 3D World plus Bowser's Fury and Bravely Default 2 came out in February, if I'm not mistaken. I think Bravely Default 2 was published by Nintendo. It came out February 26th, and it was published in part by Nintendo. And that Direct happened on the 17th. So that was later into the month. But then 2019, when we had that February Direct, I believe New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe was a January game. Yoshi's Crafted World, however, I do not remember when that.
I think that was March.
I think you're right. Just gonna double check though. March 29th. And NSMBU Deluxe, I'm pretty sure, was a January game.
Sure it's January?
Yeah. It was... It existed in January. And so, yeah, we're correct on that. So there was no February game, and it happened the 13th. So I don't know. I mean, I don't... I feel like if you ask what I think that it's not as, this pattern is not as clear cut, because what do you define as a published game, and like why does that matter? I'm not sure. Because there was no game in February, right? Happens on the 13th, right? That's 2 weeks into the month almost.
Is it?
Well, I have to go back. I think it would be the first full week.
Technically, it doesn't have to be.
Got to go all back to I checked my calendar back in 2019. So February 2019. The 13th was the second full week of the month. And there was no game that month.
Okay.
So they did it earlier. And when there is a game, it tends to happen later, is what Mike is saying. So in that sense, it happened the second full week. Now,
There was no game.
yeah, and then February 2021, there was no game, and it happened the 17th, which was the second half of the month. So I don't know, that feels a little conflicting, right? So I don't know how much stock we'll put into it. Yeah, I would just I don't put too much stock into it. I think that if Nintendo has a game that they want to push, they'll use the Direct to push it, or they can just have Twitter drops. It's not usually dependent on one game alone, unless it's something that because by that point we should already know most about the game, right? Like most people, we already know about Kirby. Like Kirby doesn't really, they're not telling us all. They're gonna tell us some things about Kirby probably, but they're not gonna like most people who are gonna buy it know they're gonna buy it. It's not like a Tears of the Kingdom situation where we know next to nothing about the game, so it's a little different.
Yeah. Or like,
well, actually, yeah, Mike does say that the 2021 did have 3 World plus Bowser's Fury. Yeah. So, and then last year, 2022. So 2022 had no game, happened early. 2021 had a game, happened later. 2019 didn't have a game, happened earlier. So second half of the month. We'll see. I guess now we got to ask ourselves: does Return to Dreamland Deluxe count as big of as those games, or does it even matter? We'll see. We will see. Let me kind of come back to the chat here, see what some comments I may have missed. Robert Powell, imagine Metro Prime 4 had a map editor for multiplayer battle. The unlimited gameplay. Unlimited gameplay. There's a few hoops to go through there. First, Prime 4 needs to have multiplayer. Then they need to add a map editor to the multiplayer battles.
Sure.
I just hope we get a really good single player experience. If they add I'm not against multiplayer. I'm just not expecting it.
You should just make a different game with a multiplayer focus instead of adding multiplayer to Prime 4.
Yeah. Joycey J went for a burger run and came back to still doing his intro. Yep, there we go. J2 Blue Engage. Any chance we get anything Prime related in this direct and maybe release a date for maybe a release date for Pikmin 4? So, yeah, I wanted to get into this. I think I kind of like jumped past it earlier. So I don't know. I guess call me the optimist, but I think there's a 50% chance we see something F-Zero. I think there's a 50% chance we see something Pikmin, because I think both things are happening this year, but they could save them for a summer showcase, right? So it's one or the other. They either talk about it now or they talk about it in the summer. I mean, if they talk about it now, they could talk about it a little bit more in the summer, but they only need to have like that initial blowout once, right? So
yeah,
I'm 50-50
we have
on both.
already seen Pikmin last year.
Right. So if it's not coming out to say maybe the fall, they could not talk about it and then have a nice blowout for it in the summer. So that there's that possibility. So I'm 50-50 on Pikmin showing up and 50-50 on F-Zero. It's because I expect both to get talked about at some point this year. It just kind of depends when. So that's where I stand with those. But there's another game that I am expecting to come out this year, and that is the Metroid Prime remaster thing, right? And you could argue 50-50 on that one too, right?
Yeah,
but there is nuance to what I'm getting here. what I'm trying to get at here, and it's actually strongly related to the video I made earlier today. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out after this podcast, or tomorrow if you're bored waiting for direct news. But basically what I talk about in the video is how I'm waiting on this direct because I not obviously because I care about the announcements, but also because I think how Nintendo shares their information, I think will be indicative for what to expect for the year. Because if Nintendo starts to give us release dates for games that go throughout beyond summer into fall, they don't have to give us specific release dates, but if they say, hey, look, Pikmin 4 coming out fall, Metroid Prime HD coming out fall, F-Zero GX coming out fall, like if they start to tell us games like between now, summer, and fall, then I'm like, oh, well, we kind of know the lineup for the year already. Then they might announce one or two other little things, but that would be the lineup. Then they wouldn't need to have a summer direct. Keep in mind, E3 has been canceled, right? So maybe they do just like some social media drops, a partner showcase, a dedicated direct for a couple games, and they hold things off until a September direct, just how they handled things last year. But if we get the direct and they basically just tell us games leading into the summer with a couple other things where the holidays are pretty still like a blurry line situation, grounded in mystery, then I think that does support the idea of a direct, right? So the reason this is relevant is because, for example, if the second half of the year is still very cloudy after this direct, that may seem like a bad thing, but it's also like, oh, it's actually supporting the idea that Nintendo is planning another bigger direct in the summer to outline the second half of the year. And if they're going to do that, then it potentially supports the idea of them having an E3-like showcase. Even if they're not going to be at E3 themselves, they may have like an E3-like showcase. And if this is to be the case, then I think it does support the idea how E3 directs or presentations have always brought with it a certain extra level of oomph or hype factor. And what I'm getting at here, ultimately, this is all about Metroid Prime, right? Like this all is a long-winded explanation for my expectations for Metroid Prime. If there's going to be kind of like a substantial summer presentation, I am expecting a Metroid Prime 4 teaser this summer. And I think this makes a lot of sense. Why? Tears of the Kingdom is coming out May. It's all relevant. Trust me.
He's getting to it, guys. Don't worry.
When Tears of the Kingdom is like that huge, super core-centric Nintendo fan game, right? It appeals to a super large audience, but Tears of the Kingdom's kind of been like that game that's been like on our minds for the last 2.5 years, 3 years, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I think Nintendo announced it so early, so we had something like that to be excited about, to keep us talking. But once Tears of the Kingdom comes out, yes, there'll be DLC and there'll be theory ideas and all of that, but it's not going to be the same. That excitement factor, that constant conversation is going to dissipate. And Nintendo's going to need to provide something else, some fuel for us Nintendo fans to be like, oh, but what about this? That's on the horizon. There needs to be kind of like that big, core-centric Nintendo game that's on the horizon.
Right.
And they're not going to show off Mario this year.
You're sure?
Okay. Well, okay. So this topic is nuanced because I assume, right, and it's built off a bunch of assumptions. I'm assuming at this stage that Switch 2 is not coming out this year. I know in the past I've been optimistic of it, but with the Nikkei report suggesting that hardware is not coming out until next year, and then the different insiders suggesting so, I'm now leaning more towards that year, right? And if that's also the case, they're going to save Mario for that system. Book it. They're not going to have a year where they release their mainline 3D Mario and mainline 3D Zelda, both games which historically it's been one or the other used to push new systems, have both come out this year, a wind down year, and then have next year be their new system with nothing like that. Like, I don't expect that. But anyways, to the point with Metroid Prime 4. Once Tears of the Kingdom comes out in May, we're going to need that big game to hype us up. So enter Metroid Prime 4 if they're doing an E3-like level kind of showcase, because that's typically where we see those kind of announcements, those kind of teasers. So they'll give us a Metroid Prime 4 teaser. And this brings us back to the Metroid Prime HD announcement for this direct. I have a suspicion that this year could feel kind of like 2021 for Tears of the Kingdom. So we didn't have the title yet, right? The game was shrouded in mystery. We just had the one trailer from 2019, kind of like Prime 4, slightly different situation, but comparable, right? And they announced a remaster in the series to come out that year in February, and it came out late summer. That was Skyward Sword HD. But even though Skyward Sword HD was announced in February to come out late summer, got another little showcase in the Summer Direct, and then they gave us an update on Breath of the Wild 2 at the time. We now know it as Tears of the Kingdom. So I have a suspicion that they may do the same for Metroid Prime HD. They may show off Metroid Prime HD like Skyward Sword HD in a February Direct, but say, hey, there'll be more details on Metroid Prime 4 later this year. Nintendo has their big summer showcase. Tears of the Kingdom is now out. They want to give us something else to be excited about that's on the horizon, and they can't quite show off Mario yet. So they show off Metroid Prime 4 finally, and give it a 2024 release timing, because it's going to be a cross-gen title for Switch 2 next year. It's going to come out probably late next year. That's my personal expectation. So anyways, the nuance is there's a lot of ifs with that, right? Like, this is all assuming there's a summer showcase. This is all assuming Nintendo thinks that they need to do that. This assumes that Metroid Prime 4 is ready for 2024. A lot of ifs there. But there is also this rumor that happened a few weeks ago where supposedly this person hinted at the Tears of the Kingdom title, told people about WarioWare and Splatoon 3 and Skyward Sword before they were announced in Direct, but this person was teasing it like a day or so in advance. This was already weeks ago that this person teased Metroid Prime soon. Now, just because it's been a few weeks, I wouldn't say that 100% means the person is false, but I guess we're going to find out in this February Direct, right? If there's a February Direct and Metroid Prime HD shows up, then that person, maybe there's some credibility there given their track record. So, I do think it is the time for Metroid Prime, but, if it doesn't show up in this Direct, I think it's probably because they're saving it for an announcement later in the year.
Yeah. I mean, we've gotten 2 Metroid games in between, the last time we got a Prime game, at least, right? 2 on in the recent history that I can think
Metroid Prime 3 Corruption came out in 2007. Metroid Prime Trilogy, which is a compilation of all 3 games slightly reworked, came out in 2009. Metroid Other M, I believe, came out in 2010. So that's 1 Metroid game since the Metroid Prime series. And then I believe in 2012, Metroid Prime Federation Force came out. It's a spin-off.
I don't count those in the main line. I don't even really count Other M.
Well,
it's like its own thing. It's not a Prime game or...
Okay, Metroid Prime Federation Force came out 2016. So whatever this 2012 nonsense, just wipe that from your memory. I never said that. And then in 2017, Metroid Samus Returns came out, which is a remake of Metroid 2 on the 3DS. And in 2021, we got Metroid Dread. So technically, there's been 4 Metroid releases.
In the recent renaissance of Metroid, though, we have gotten two 2D Metroids. One of them a remake, one of them new. Sure. I feel like the next time they show off Metroid, it's got to be the Prime series, right? They're not going to show off another 2D Metroid next. And I do think we're going to see more Metroid soon. So therefore, I do feel like we're going to see more Metroid Prime soon. So I definitely think in the February Direct or in the summer, we could see some form of Metroid Prime at the very least.
Yeah, it's tricky. And interesting that we're kind of talking about this because, Retro Studios is supposedly has worked on both these projects. We know Metroid Prime 4 is confirmed. Metroid Prime Remaster is all rumor, right? So we don't know for a fact, but it's what's believed. And we're going to be talking about this Star Fox Armada game that was one point concepted at Retro Studios, but was never greenlit. Like, it's just interesting kind of thinking about all the different projects that could have happened from Retro Studios. Like, remember there's like that idea for like a Zelda spin-off that would be like based off like Sheik or something.
Sheik, yeah.
Yeah, like
that one sounded really cool.
They've had a lot of it seems like they've had a lot of ideas over the years that have never like materialized. It's just interesting.
Yeah, and they all sound really good, so I wonder what happened.
I don't know. I think it comes down to like just leadership and how it was all managed, and they've had to go through a lot of internal changes. And I mean, when we get into some of the stuff on Star Fox Armada, like apparently they had this great idea and they brought it up to, I mean, I could just talk about it now. I don't think it really matters. They brought up this idea, and apparently they just thought it was like cool, but they didn't really look much more into it. And there's like this sentiment, at least according to the Did You Know Gaming video, that like at Retro Studios the leadership just was very, there wasn't much, like the team didn't have much input or say on what was going to happen. It was just kind of very much top heavy, higher ups make decisions. It doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. Which, you know, is very interesting, because like what we know about, say for example, Breath of the Wild's development, it's actually very inclusive of everyone's ideas. So the way Breath of the Wild's development went, it was actually a new sort of development philosophy for Nintendo, is that they would work on the game with their different ideas and different departments, and then after a while they would all take a break for about a week or so and play the game and talk about it with each other and give each other their own input. And from those ideas they would then, all right, we've gotten feedback from everyone, we've shared our own concepts and ideas, let's now work on the game for a while. And then they would come back, play the game, and so on. They had this process that was very inclusive.
Right.
So
it sounds really good.
Yeah.
Fun, at least.
Yeah. You know,
I'd like to be a developer, because I feel like I would definitely be that developer who'd be like trying to give feedback all the time, and I would want it to be like listened to. So that sounds like a fun workspace for sure.
But Retro Studios apparently wasn't like that. So that's kind of, I think, you know, you look at that and maybe that's part of the reason why they've been kind of so quiet over these years, because a lot of the
game in like 10 years.
Right, a lot of the staff left. A lot of staff didn't like working there because the way it was handled, the management was poor. I mean, there's a lot of different elements to that. But we'll come back more to the Star Fox idea and talk about the future of Star Fox in a bit. I do want to kind of focus on the different questions you guys have about Direct and things we could see. There's another super chat here I have, so I want to get to that. Mike Hamilton with the super chat, thank you very much for the super chat, says or asks, what if God as Hylia's divine essence is separated from Zelda in Tears of the Kingdom? It's interesting.
What?
Well,
wouldn't that like ruin everything?
I don't know.
Would that stop the reincarnation cycle, do you think, or no?
I don't think that would, Oh, okay. I don't think, no. I don't think so. I don't think they... Well... I
actually legitimately don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to how they choose to like, materialize that concept, right? Like, does taking out the divine essence mean Zelda dies, right? Like, are they one and the same? You know? Or is it even possible to separate them? Are they... You know what I mean? Now, I kind of understand the idea to some extent, because throughout the course of the story, the flashbacks in Breath of the Wild, Zelda struggled manifesting her divine powers. And there was a huge plot point, because they needed her powers to apprehend Calamity Ganon. Without her, they could not seal away Calamity Ganon. And then at the end of Breath of the Wild, she says she feels her powers have dwindled. Now, that's a very vague term. Dwindle does not mean non-existent, right? But I don't know to what extent. Could it have dwindled to the extent where it basically is non-existent? Could it have dwindled to the extent where it's showing like a slow progression of loss to the point where it'll basically be like there's nothing there? Or does it just mean she needs some time to recover? There's there's a lot of gray area there, and we don't really know
I'm not sure what that means at all.
what's to come from that. But the interesting thing about her lack of divine powers, if that is kind of a major plot point going into Tears of the Kingdom, assuming she doesn't just straight up die, which I doubt they would just kill her off,
No.
is that they needed her powers to seal away Calamity Ganon. And Calamity Ganon was just the angry smoke malice from this mummy source, right, that we think is Ganondorf. So, with that said, does Ganondorf, like, how do they stop Ganondorf, right? Because they needed Zelda's sealing powers to stop Calamity Ganon. Link couldn't finish it off by himself. So what happens if Zelda doesn't have her sealing powers and the source of the Calamity Ganon is even stronger?
Right.
That's kind of a pickle. Also, the Divine Beasts are supposedly not around, so they may not even be able to use them as weapons to help in the fight either. So there's all these different things that are like kind of points in Ganondorf's favor. Oh, Zelda has lost her sealing powers. Okay, check. Oh, no Divine Beasts. Check. Oh, I destroyed Link's Master Sword. Check. I'm stronger than before. Check. Mate. So, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they're gonna handle this entire dynamic. I don't know if Zelda's divine essence is just gone forever or if it's been separated. We'll see how they handle things, but definitely I do think it's gonna be a plot
She
point.
used her divine powers. It just ended up being the Triforce, though. It was just like she used the Triforce. I wonder if she just doesn't have the Triforce, and that's just like she just has her normal. Because Zelda usually has like magical abilities of her own. So maybe that's why she's like, oh, my magic's like not super freaking powerful anymore.
Maybe what she means by dwindled is that she had the entire Triforce within her, and maybe she made her power was the wish to seal away Calamity Ganon, and she sealed away Calamity Ganon, and that forced the Triforce to break into pieces again, and maybe that's why her power dwindled, and it also opens the door for Triforce of Courage Link, Triforce of Power Ganondorf, and also Triforce of Wisdom Zelda, going back to that motif they used to have. So, I mean, that's a direction they could maybe go. And I think we're gonna get some more clues really soon.
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah. I'm just kind of going through the chat here. Earthbound for NSO. Oh, I would love that, Mike. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah. I haven't actually played Earthbound that much. I watched a lot of it, but I haven't played it that much.
Yeah. Let's see. Raw McClure. Prime not a heavy hitter at all. I mean, it's all relative, right?
I mean, define heavy hitter.
A really good game that we're gonna enjoy? Yes. A game that will sell over 10 million? Probably not.
True. I mean, I'd be happy if it sold 5 million.
Mm-hmm. It's random cam. I think Ganondorf has the entire Triforce, and that's what broke him free. That would be nuts.
Huh.
I doubt it.
Interesting.
But I mean, I don't like. I guess I just don't see how that happened.
He
Unless
doesn't appear to have the Triforce at all.
right, there's no indication of that. That's and I guess the other thing is that if Ganondorf obtains a Triforce, it's kind of like the end game. Like Ganondorf's goal has always been to get the Triforce, and that's kind of like the last thing he doesn't get. So if he were to get the Triforce in Tears of the Kingdom,
I don't know how he would be beatable.
We already just talked about. He's had all these checks. Zelda's powers have been dwindled. Master Sword is broken. No divine beasts.
See, he only has one piece of the Triforce.
They would be screwed. Tears of the Kingdom's a tragedy.
Turns out you actually lose in the end. And then there's a third one where you like go back in time.
Yeah.
Fix it.
Wyatt Rosebrock, Silk Song. I wish I could tell. I know people always ask about Silk Song,
Predicting
but like
Silk Song is like predicting another 3 at this point. Like, who knows?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you something, but I don't. I don't really know much on it. Charles Shadell added me. Let me ask a simple question. What is a heavy hitter for a company when your latest console has a top 10 in 6 years in the 10 to million has a top 10 in 6 years in the 10 to million? So do you mean that their top 10 titles have all sold over 10 million in the last 6 years? I think that sounds about right. That does. Top 10 Switch games.
I know all the
Sales.
top 10 have sold over 10 billion. I'm pretty sure.
I'm
Maybe
pretty sure.
one hasn't.
No, they're way past that. So according to this list, at number 1, Mario Kart Deluxe, 48.41 million. At number 2, Animal Crossing: New Horizons, 40.17. At number 3, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, 29.53. At number 4, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, 27.79. If you account for Wii U sales, it's definitely over 28. Pokemon Sword and Shield, 25.37. Number 6, Super Mario Odyssey, 24.4 million. Number 7, Super Mario Party, 18.35. Number 8, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl at 14.92. Number 9, The Power of Evergreen Ring Fit Adventure, 14.87 million. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, 14.81 million. So that's the top 10, but there's still a few games that are above that. Number 11, Legends Arceus, 13.91 million. Number 12, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, 13.31 million. Number 13, Splatoon 2, 13.3 million. Number 14, Luigi's Mansion 3, 11.43 million. Number 15, apparently, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet at 10 million. And then 3D World plus Bowser's Fury is at 9.43. And Splatoon 2, I bet will pass 10 million soon. There's a lot of games that are close. Mario 3D All-Stars at 9.07. Mario Party Superstars at 8. Splatoon 3 at 7.9. Mario Maker 2 at 7.89. Monster Hunter Rise at 7.7. I don't think those will pass with Splatoon 3 and Mario 3D World and Mario Party Superstars. I think those three can pass 10 million. So, and Scarlet and Violet, they're gonna pass. They're already past 10 million, but they're gonna continue to grow for sure. So yeah, I mean it's crazy like how many big hitters they have. But you know, if that's what we call a big hitter, right? Okay, well, you got Monster Hunter Rise, 7.7 million. Is that not considered a big hitter? Kirby and the Forgotten Land, 5.5 million. Is that not considered a big hitter? Link's Awakening remake, 6 million. Is that not considered a big hitter? You know, Donkey Kong
anything over 1 million is a pretty good amount of sales.
I didn't realize this, but Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze has sold 4 million. Is that not considered a big hitter, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Skyward Sword HD, 3.91 million. Like, those are big. Metroid Dread at 3. Paper Mario Origami King at 3.34 million. Like, you know, there's some big games. I wonder where Xenoblade 3's at. Dude, apparently Xenoblade 3 is only at 1.72, but it just came out, so it'll grow.
Makes me sad. It should be at 10.
Xenoblade 2's at 2.5 million. But anyways, the point is that like those are all games that I love. Some of those games I prefer over some of the top 10 games. You know, like it kind of comes like if we get a new F-Zero, a Metroid Prime, if we get an F-Zero remaster with new content, a Metroid Prime is like remade, we obviously get Pikmin 4. If they announce maybe a Star Fox or a Donkey Kong, maybe none of those games eclipse 10 million, probably not. But
great year of AA games, though.
Those would all be amazing games, and I would love that. Like I would love all those games more than personally. I'm not saying Animal Crossing is a bad game, but I would love it more than Animal Crossing personally. And that's the second best-selling game. I would love it more than Pokemon Sword and Shield, which is the fifth best-selling game. I would love it more than Mario Party, which is the seventh best-selling game. I would love it more than Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and Ring Fit Adventure, and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, the 8, 9, and 10 best games in terms of sales. And then Legends Arceus actually is a really good game. I really like Legends Arceus. But Mario Bros. U Deluxe, yeah, that's the 12th best-selling game. I don't really care about that. You know, so my point is that games like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Metroid Dread, if they have games to that level, that's okay. That's great. I think for the core Nintendo fan base, they'd be happy, and I think they would rely on that plus deals and maybe some price drops and cuts and some bundles to get us through this year, plus Tears of the Kingdom. Like, that will be fine. I think most Nintendo fans will be entirely content with that.
Yeah. I think games that appeal to everyone are great, but some of my favorite games are games that appeal specifically to me and people like me. And there's not as much people for every niche, and that's okay. Just because it doesn't appeal to everyone doesn't mean it's any worse. It just means that there's a smaller demographic. And it doesn't. I think sales, is the terms of like how good something is definitely not true. We all know this, so.
Yeah.
If you look at like the top best rated games of all time, none of them that I haven't looked at them in a while. I don't have them in front of me, but I know a lot of them didn't sell like a ton of copies.
The best selling games of all time I don't think are the best games of all time, but it's relative.
They tend to do a lot of things good, but I think games that are more niche tend to do one thing extremely well, or a smaller focus.
That makes sense. Like, if you want something that's going to appeal to a large audience, you have to be more broad. And by being more broad, you can't focus and be as high quality, per se. But that doesn't mean you're bad, it just means you're a little bit more broad, right?
Yeah.
But then, if you want to really focus on one thing, you can do that one thing a lot better. Like, for example, if I only did Zelda videos, my Zelda videos would be better. But, I try to cover Nintendo as a whole. So I have to kind of spread myself out a little bit. So that means that there aren't going to be as many Zelda videos. And that means that, I can't do as much research on just Zelda because I have to focus my efforts elsewhere. I still try and make good Zelda videos, right? I think most of you guys like my Zelda videos. But, I have to focus on other things as well. So.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Melfi Sky. Earthbound is on NSO as well as Earthbound Beginnings.
Are they?
I don't know. I didn't think it
they
was.
were.
I didn't think so either. Let me check. Let's see.
I know that Earthbound
usually...
Beginnings is on you. So is Earthbound.
Super Nintendo. I'm literally on NSO, going on NSO right now. Let's see. I'm checking. Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Nintendo Switch Online. Let's see. Fighter's History. Kirby's Avalanche. I do not... Oh, there's Earthbound. Earthbound is there.
Dang, I did not know that. I'll have to play it.
I need to play Earthbound. Yeah. I guess it's because earlier I saw someone who said Earthbound on Nintendo Switch Online, but it's already there. Yeah. Yep, but Earthbound exists. It's another game. It's another quality game there. Yeah, I had it on the Super Nintendo Classic too, so. Or was it not on that? Is that why I'm confused? There was something.
Maybe it just wasn't on. I think it wasn't on the online service like till a while. Like it took a while.
Yeah.
So I know it wasn't on there like for a bit. I don't know how recent, but I know like it was a decent amount of time. It was not there.
I'm looking at the list. Yeah, it's there. Anyway, let's just move on. But thank you for the clarification. Yes, Nintendo Sky. We need Jet Force Gemini. That would be a true treasure to have on Nintendo Switch Online. Totally agree. Totally agree. All right, so guys, feel free to throw out more Nintendo Direct questions or ideas. You don't have to be on Nintendo Direct. I do want to bring in Nish Quick. I was supposed to bring him in a little bit ago already, so it was a little bit delayed. Let me ask if he's ready now. You ready? Let's see if he's ready. Okay, he is ready. So let me bring him in, and we'll talk about some more Nintendo Direct stuff. One moment here.
Nice.
Okay. Brandon, I'm gonna add you to another call, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Hello,
Hey.
how's it going?
Hey, I'm good. I'm trying to add...
You can hear me properly, hear and see me properly?
I can
Glad.
hear and see you. I'm just trying to
Oh,
add Brandon
Awesome.
to the call. I'm gonna send you a friend request if you could accept that so I could add Brandon to the call, apparently.
Oh yeah, hold on a sec, I'll do that. There, I
Just
just
saying.
accepted that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Let me add Brandon real quick. I can't find Brandon. Where did Brandon go? Why does it not, like, let me add Brandon? Is it because I don't remember Brandon's name on Discord?
It's
Oh,
from the last time I joined
Oh.
it was just Nod Narb, I think,
Okay,
yeah.
I got it.
Ah, there he is.
Alrighty.
Yo.
Yo. Alright. Alright, just add, there we are. Okay, awesome. Alright, we are good. Cool, so let me bring us back here on camera. Okay, cool. So, Nish Quick, thanks for joining.
Hello.
Yeah,
It's good to be back for the second time.
yeah, I'm glad to have you. So,
yeah.
let's just get into it, right? Because I know you want to talk
Yeah.
a little about the Direct stuff and some Fire
Yeah.
Emblem. But
Yeah, Direct, Tears of the Kingdom, and Fire Emblem. I guess we'll start with we'll do Fire Emblem last because that's just like a few things I wanted to bounce off with you. So
Yeah.
we'll start with Direct stuff. So this is one question I wanted to ask both of you guys because like the structure of Directs are always very interesting, like how they start, how they end, what's in the middle, and like the beginning and the end of Directs are always like huge. So my question to you guys is, do you think Tears of the Kingdom is gonna be at the beginning or the end? Because I want it to be at the beginning. I want it to just start off and be like, here's everything, you've waited so long, you're starting off the Direct with this big bang. So what do you guys think?
Brandon, you want to give your thoughts first?
I think it's gonna be at the beginning. 'Cause I think they want to talk about it a little bit more. If they put it at the end, then less time, I think. I feel like the beginning to open it would be better. I don't know. It could just be that I want it to be that way. So it's kind of like leaning, a little bit of bias. Because I want it as soon as possible, as you say.
Yeah, same. And I've noticed that Tears of the Kingdom has been a Direct closer 3 times now. And that like ending part of the Direct is so like important. So I kind of hope that it's like Metroid Prime Remastered and then a Metroid Prime 4 teaser, or like maybe even like the new Mario game or something. So I really want Tears of the Kingdom to kick off the Direct. If it's in the middle, that would be weird. I don't want them to do that.
It would be strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess I understand your point about like if they have Tears of the Kingdom being at the end, then there's not like another like surprise. I get that. But that's not what I think is happening. Yeah, I mean, and I could be wrong, I could be totally wrong, right? This is just my opinion. But my take is that they're gonna open up with something that's gonna be a surprise, right? But I do get your point that, like, you know, people are gonna have this anticipation for Tears of the Kingdom. They're gonna want that information. So I think what's gonna happen is when Nintendo announces the Direct, presumably tomorrow. We hope. We don't know, right? We don't know, but
I hope so too.
right?
Please.
They announce it
Fingers
tomorrow,
crossed.
and when they announce it, they tell us that they're going to have a Nintendo Direct to tell us about games throughout the spring and summer. Like, basically, you know, they're probably just say spring, mostly spring releases, including Tears of the Kingdom, something like that. And I have like a bunch of cat
I
hair
will
on
say
my
this
face now.
though. I will say this. They haven't specified what games they're talking about in a Direct since February 2021. And I remember this. The February 2021 Direct said, tune in for a Direct for the first half of 2021 with games including Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which was hinting at the Pyre and Mythra announcement. Since then, they've been like not like doubling down on which games will be there, but I feel like to like generate more hype, I think they could be like first half of 2023, including Tears of the Kingdom. So
Yes.
I
I
hope we
have
see
to
that.
mention Tears of the Kingdom, because it's so close to the release date and with such little information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Less
They're
than
gonna be like,
100
yes,
days.
guys, don't worry, we're gonna
Yeah,
talk
so
about it.
I think Nintendo's
Calm down.
is going to tell us that Direct's going to have Tears of the Kingdom, and that I think that alone is going to kind of calm people down, right? So
I'm gonna calm people down and hype them up at the same time.
at the same time, but like it's going to
less
ease,
anxiety, more hype.
right? It's going to
It'll,
ease
it'll put us at ease that
Exactly.
Tears of the Kingdom will be there.
Yeah.
exactly. It will ease our concerns. So with us already knowing that the Direct's going to have a Tears of the Kingdom segment, they don't need to kind of like shut down any fears by immediately showing it off, right? So my take is that they're gonna show us something that we haven't seen yet to open up the Direct. And I feel most of the time when we have a Direct, it's always something new to open it. It's always new.
Yeah.
I mean, let's. I want to double check, right? But I feel
Like,
that it's
Three
always.
Hopes opened up the February 2022 Direct, which is something like no one predicted. Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes.
What opened up the September Direct that just happened?
Engage did.
Fire Emblem Engage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was rumored, but like it's also kind of like something they never talked about before
Yeah.
either.
And they used to do a lot of Smash stuff to open things up. It's a new Smash character, like
Yeah.
So
You know, I remember
yeah.
one Direct opened with Overwatch, so we might even get like a third-party opener as well. So
Yeah.
If it's something big.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the new Resident Evil game, if that still exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
As
my
for, like-
take.
Yeah.
Something new will open up the Direct. Maybe Metroid Prime remaster. Maybe it'll be a game we haven't even heard of yet. But the last like third or last big chunk of the Direct will be dedicated to Tears of the Kingdom,
Oh yeah.
and
yeah, I agree.
we'll get our goods.
Yes.
Yeah.
As for what is going to be in the Direct, I feel like Tears of the Kingdom, hopefully, I really hope it's like a substantial story / gameplay trailer. I hope it's not another like 30-second little bit of gameplay. I don't
Yeah.
think it will be, but I don't know. Nintendo's been very weird about this game. So I want Tears of the Kingdom. I think Advance Wars is like 100% definite. As far as new stuff is going, my like big hope is Metroid. I really think Metroid can make it, especially with that like Reddit leak, which kind of hinted at Metroid with like, is everyone primed and ready? So I really hope that this is finally Metroid's time to be revealed.
Yeah. We all are hoping.
Yeah, and with that, I hope because like I was telling other people, I was like, they can't announce Metroid Prime Remaster and not say anything about Prime 4. So maybe we like, at the least, at least some like screenshots, concept art, something substantial about Metroid Prime 4. But if not in February, I'm really hoping for it in the summertime.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that. Like I remember. Like I remember E3 2021. I knew, basically. I mean, it was rumored that they were going to show off a new 2D Metroid, and I remember kind of like just wondering, like, oh man, how good is this gonna look? Like, it was one of those things where, like, when you don't know how a game looks, but you're anticipating it, right? Like, to finally see how it's gonna look. And when they finally showed it off, I was like, oh, so this is how HD Metroid looks, right? Like, I actually, I made a video. I'm thinking about it now, back to 2021. I think I was like, it was like a video saying something like the wait for Metroid in HD or something, because I was kind of anticipating how this is gonna look, right? And we're talking about, you know, like Metroid Prime 4, Metroid Prime HD. These games, we don't know how they're gonna look in the modern era. Like, we don't know. And so, like, I have like this curiosity, this excitement of this unknown, right? Like, it's this thing that we know exists, but we have no idea. I mean, we can guess, but we don't have any real comparison for how, like. Okay, you can just look at like those Unreal Metroid Prime things, but my point is,
mention that, but
it's not going to be the same. It's just not, right? Like, it's kind of like when the first time we saw Mario Odyssey, right? When we saw Mario Odyssey, it was amazing. Or the first time we saw Breath of the Wild, like those moments when we see this modern Nintendo game in its full, like that, when we see it actually running in that engine, like, it's a magical moment. So I'm looking forward to that moment for Metroid Prime, because we've had it for the 2D Metroid Prime, the 2D Metroid series, but for Metroid Prime, we haven't had that moment yet. And I'm really excited to finally get that moment. Whether it's this week or if it's in the summer, sometime,
I think
we're
it's
gonna have that moment.
Year, though. I think it has to be this year, because it's been so long. And I was hoping they would, like, maybe give us a slight tease in January, because it's been 4 years since the delay, and a lot of the rumors are starting up in January. So I don't know. I think this February Direct, if it's announced tomorrow or whenever it's going to happen, I think it's a good place for Metroid Prime in whatever form it is to be present there. Yeah. But I think
just one quick thing. I'm just seeing some people in the chat. The Nintendo Direct has not been announced yet, right? The title says Nintendo Direct announcement tomorrow. It's a question mark. We are questioning if there will be a Direct announcement tomorrow. And an announcement means an announcement, not the Direct, right? So the implication is we're wondering that there's an announcement tomorrow. An announcement would probably be for a show on Wednesday, which is my prediction, that we're getting a show on Wednesday. Yeah. Just want to clarify that, because I saw some people in the chat asking.
There is a tweet that I wanted to talk to you about in regards to, like, Nintendo Direct, like the possibility of a Nintendo Direct announcement tomorrow, but this tweet is kind of saying the opposite, saying, like, based off of past reports or like past history, it probably won't. I'm trying to find it right now, but basically I'll say that this this account was saying that, like, there's usually like a decent gap between the investor report and the Direct airing. So that was this person's proof of saying that there won't be a Direct this week. But I think that, wait, when is Kirby releasing this February?
24th.
Yeah, then I really think they need a Direct this week to give Kirby a little bit more marketing, especially since it's got that supposed epilogue and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they could still do the Direct next week and it'll be fine. So first off, they had their earnings report on the 3rd last year, and the Direct happened 6 days later. So I don't know how much of a gap we're looking for here, but yes, if we get it on the 8th, that would be only a 1-day gap, right? Which would be less of a gap.
So here's one. It said 2019 earning report January 31st, Direct on February 13th. 2021 earning report February 1st, Direct February 17th. 2022 earning report February 3rd, Direct February 9th. So that's the shortest window, 6 days. So I mean, I think they could do like 1-day gap.
Yeah, well, like, I think it's also worth noting that the model Nintendo's most likely to follow, my opinion, is always the most recent one, right? Mm-hmm. Because Nintendo's perspective continues to shift. right? As time, and there's always gonna be things where they will do something different. Like there's exceptions all the time. Like for example, last year we didn't have an E3 Direct, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean we won't have one this year, but I totally think that February 15th would be a good time to have a Direct, right? I've only shifted to saying the 8th, mainly because of the Advance Wars stuff. Kind of, it seems like it's kind of like really like boiling over, right? Nintendo's been retweeting the 100 days till Tears of the Kingdom, and both Jeff Grubb and Nate the Hate saying that a Direct is, from what they've heard, a Direct is happening this week. With that all said, I think this idea that there has to be several days after an investor meeting, I think it's one of those things where I just don't think it matters. Like, how much does it matter if it's 6 days versus 1 day? Like, what difference does it make there? I think the reason they do a Direct has more to do with marketing the games at the right time based off, agreement with third-party companies and when they need to get information out for their products in time to have it all set up, right? So I don't think the difference of 1 to 5 to 10 days really matters after an investors meeting. That's my take.
Yeah, good point.
That said, it could still happen next week. I'm not saying it can't.
Yeah. I do think this week is more likely, though, and I'm really hoping for this Wednesday. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we'll see. But I did want to talk more specifically about Tears of the Kingdom and like a few like theories, because I really enjoyed your live stream where you're doing like 100 things that we should know before the game is announced or like revealed or the game is released.
Yeah.
Basically, I added to your list that we need to know more about that Zonai deity, or the bunny Zonai as you call it.
Yeah.
To expand on that theory, I actually think that bunny Zonai is the one who is holding down Ganondorf with the green arm. And then I think that green arm of that bunny Zonai gets attached to Link. So I think Link will have Zonai powers and it'll come from that deity. Because, I don't know, with Link's connection to that deity, I don't know if you watch Commonwealth Realms channel. He does a lot of Zelda theories as well, but he's very particular on like the color scheme of a lot of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, what they're doing. Like Shikatek is blue,
right,
like with his wisdom. Malice is red because of power, and then this Zonai energy would be courage.
Yeah.
So that also is interesting how that deity and Zelda are like locking hands in the end of the trailer. So my theory is that this bunny Zonai, whatever it's going to be called, if it even is a Zonai, I think that is the arm holding down Ganondorf, which was sealing Ganondorf this whole time, and then transfers over to Link for whatever reason, which we'll hopefully learn about this week.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I like referring to it as the bunny Zonai just because I think it's fun. Right? I know it's not. That's not gonna be the name. Like some people suggested it might be like an alternate form or parallel to Hylia.
Some people say it is Hylia, like straight up is Hylia, because we haven't seen Hylia's true form. We've just seen the goddess statues. Right,
and there is this diary from Zelda in Breath of the Wild where she says she had a dream, and this being that she wasn't sure if it was a goddess or a fairy, but it was this the most beautiful woman ever, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but something like that she saw in a dream. There's kind of like some material there already in Breath of the Wild that kind of like supports the idea.
Zonai.
Yeah, not to mention they have all these Hylia statues, right? It would be interesting to see maybe that, and there's also this one statue that isn't of Hylia. It's like almost like a foil to Hylia. There's that one statue behind
one that you can exchange the hearts and stamina with.
Yeah, it's like the one behind Hateno Village.
Mm-hmm.
Zelda has a history of having dualities or like foils or mirrors, right? You have the Twilight Realm, right? You have the Dark World. You have Lorule.
I mean, there is a bunny mirror, like character in the Zelda game, in A Link Between Worlds.
Oh, okay. I've yet to play Link
Literally.
Between Worlds. Actually, I need to
good.
do that before Tears of the
It's like-
Kingdom.
It's good.
In the other realm, I forget what they call it in that game, but the other realm, the other Link, he wears a bunny costume.
Oh, yeah,
Shows you
you're right.
items.
It's Ravio. It's Ravio.
Yeah, who's the?
That's one thing I do know.
He's
Yeah,
the foil
it is
for Link.
Ravio.
He's the other side of Link.
Yeah. And also, Link's
The bunny attire.
form when he goes into the Dark World in Link to the Past is the bunny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it all connects.
Oh,
But I'm also-
yeah, it makes sense. Because, Well, Link Between Worlds is like a sequel to Link to the
Yeah.
Past, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like a reimagining almost.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
it's like both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about like these alternate forms because, like, for example, Link turns into a wolf in the Twilight Realm, right? So it's like slightly different, but it's similar. The fact that there's like a Link transforms into another type of creature
Yeah.
in this mirrored
yeah.
realm.
And then there's the fierce deity in Termina as well.
I have no idea what that is. I think it's just like Nintendo just wanted to
The
do
Fierce
something wild.
Deity?
No, I know what it is. I know
Oh,
I
yeah.
know of its existence.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at it is I don't know how it would connect
Yeah.
to anything else. I just feel like Nintendo for
Yeah.
that they just want to do something like badass, so they came up with
Mm.
the Fierce Deity.
Yeah, Aonuma's explanation for it is actually kind of interesting. He said every person in Termina, their like soul lives inside of the fierce deity mask. So that's pretty interesting, but I also don't really know what he means by that.
Yeah. What is
I
this
don't
supposed to
know.
mean?
I mean, you only get it by getting every mask in the game, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I think they wanted to reward you for completing every side quest, which is way better
Yeah.
than poop.
Yeah.
Golden poop.
Hestu's gift.
Yeah.
But I'm very excited for the story implications of Tears of the Kingdom. I don't want to theorize too much because I do want to be surprised. But in terms of gameplay, I think the biggest thing I want, like before it was like a more expanded world, but I've kind of like accepted that it's going to be Hyrule with some changes. But I think the biggest thing I want now is dungeons and like actual traditional Zelda dungeons, but with the physics of Breath of the Wild. Because I was talking to a friend about this, and they were saying, "Oh, do you think we'll get dungeon items back?" And I said, "I don't really want dungeon items. I just want themed dungeons with the physics of Breath of the Wild."
I totally agree with that, right? Like, I want to have I think what I miss about dungeons isn't necessarily a dungeon item. Like, if we can, I mean, in Breath of the Wild, you still got new abilities. They were just not mandatory, right? And it's kind of more about you just learn how to use your abilities more as you progress and you build up other little things. But
I think they could make dungeons that were focused around abilities, though.
they could.
They just wouldn't be abilities you learned in the dungeon. It would just be like they could even have ones that are like bow and arrow specific. They just give you arrows throughout the thing so you don't run out.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's kind of the issue a lot of the time is like you thinking about like what a player has on them at any time when they enter a dungeon, but you can just supply them with things in the dungeon if you need to.
Yeah, I remember in the Wind Waker when you run out of arrows, the arrows come out of the boss's nose, which is kind of it's meant as a test.
It's in the Tower of the Gods.
Yeah, it's meant as a test, right? So like they're not actually trying to kill you. They're trying to see if you're worthy of being the hero. But
They will, though.
the point I wanted to make though, they could kill you though. Yeah. The point I wanted to make though is that like I'm with you. Like I think what I believe is kind of like what's missing isn't like having, oh, can I find the hook shot, right? It's more of a dungeon having kind of like this theme to it, right? Like, oh, there's the Forest Temple, which is like this ancient place that, you know, when you're playing through Ocarina of Time, right? Especially if it's like your first or second time playing, so you don't really know your way around things. You do a lot of exploration, and the Forest Temple is like deep into the Lost Woods, and odds are you won't see it, right? It's just like this place that's hidden away, but you find it and it has this history to it, and as you explore it, there's these different things going on that have a lot of really good environmental storytelling, right? And you go through it, there's a bit of a story there, and then the final boss is like this unique boss for that dungeon. That dungeon has its own unique feel. And the same can be said for pretty much every main dungeon of the 3D dungeon. I mean, even the 2D dungeons, the 2D Zelda games have like dungeons like that. And what I want in Tears of the Kingdom are dungeons like that, where there will be a theme for that dungeon. Maybe it's based, it doesn't even have to be based off an element per se. Like, for example, you look at like the Ancient Cistern. Like, the Ancient Cistern was like the water temple for Skyward Sword, but it wasn't like all water. Like, it was based off like Buddhist architecture and history, and there being a light and dark world, right? And there was water. So it was this unique thing that had its own like story to it that was really cool. So what I want in Tears of the Kingdom is more of a focus on areas that feel different from anywhere else in the world of Hyrule, that have a story it's told through the environment, and it ends with a unique boss fight you can't find anywhere else in the game. So it has its own thing. In Breath of the Wild, everything felt very similar. And I think that was kind of part of the problem.
Yeah, I agree with that. It would add a lot of variety to the world. And I think if dungeons were placed in like important areas within Hyrule, that would be nice as well. Which, because I'm of the like group of people that thinks that like each like tower region of Breath of the Wild is unique in its own way. So I don't think there will be a dungeon for each like region of Hyrule, but if there's at least like maybe 7 dungeons scattered in like the most like important places in Hyrule, and they're all themed based on those regions, I think that would be really cool. And I also want it to be non-linear, so you can do any dungeon in any order. So that kind of like the Divine Beasts, how you can do them in any order, and kind of like how like I've heard in Link Between Worlds you can do dungeons in any order as well. So that would be really awesome. I think that would be really cool.
I don't remember if you could do all of them in any order, but I know at least some of them.
There was a lot of freedom to it, and it was based on, you had to pick, you could only, there was like an item rental system, so you can have all the items at once for a while. And you would still need a dedicated item to do a dungeon.
Okay.
And you would simply borrow that respective item to get to that particular dungeon.
I don't remember if every dungeon's available off rip or not, though.
I still need to try Link Between Worlds. I need to give that a shot.
Great.
You should.
My
It's
favorite
really
2D
good.
Zelda. I've only played through it once, though.
Oh, okay. But for Tears of the Kingdom, I imagine like you get out into the open world after the tutorial's done, and theoretically, just like how you could go to like Death Mountain and do Rudania first, maybe you can go to like the Hebra region or the Akala region and do that dungeon first if you want. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I hope.
I wouldn't necessarily mind if there was some level linearity added, but I also think that I don't need the linearity per se. What I am curious on though is how they're going to do this. Like with the dungeons, I'm okay with it being completely open. I'm just really curious how they're going to tell a good story while having an entirely open level of exploration. Like, you know, because the dungeons are major points in the story, right? So when you accomplish them, how does it impact the main plot, right? So
I imagine the plot will have to be impacted in a way that is just based off of the amount of dungeons you've done and not which ones you've done. Other than that, they either need to do that, or they need a story where there's a story around each dungeon and then they connect, but there's not a main plot going through the entire time till maybe the second half of the game. There could be a second half of the story after you do all the dungeons that's more linear.
I like Brandon's idea where it's like you do a certain amount of dungeons and then a story beat happens. Kind of like how in like other 3D Zelda games you do 3 dungeons and then something happens and then you have to get the Master Sword. So maybe you do like 3 or 4 dungeons and then you're powerful enough to get the Master Sword to its normal state, and then you have to do the rest of the dungeons to get the Master Sword at the green zone ice state or something.
Now that would mean the game would have to be somewhat linear, right? Like there would be some limitation there, like you wouldn't be able to do every dungeon whenever you wanted. I mean, well, it could be
necessarily the reward for the dungeon would just have to be more generic.
You know, I like the idea of
it's just a way of presenting what you're doing,
Right.
rather than changing it. Because even if the end of the dungeon's goal is like powering up the Master Sword, you can do that in a way that makes sense that you're powering up. That's not unique to each dungeon, right? So that you can do it in any order.
So like something they can do. The thing is, it really just comes down to how they're going to tell a story. Like what story are they even going to tell? Like I have no idea what story they're going to tell, because what they can do, right? Like kind of going back to what I was saying, where if each dungeon has its own story, like maybe they make what they do. It's one of the reasons why I think Majora's Mask is really good, is because there's so many side stories that are very compelling, right? And a lot of them don't have to be done in any particular order. Like there's a lot of flexibility with that, right? Because there are some masks you need to get other particular masks, but there's a lot of kind of branching paths for that, right? But it was just cool because of these different unique stories. And if they go back to kind of having like these themes for each dungeon, and there's a bit of a story there, like for example, when you go to the Hebrew region, it's not just the dungeon itself, it's a story, it's the lead up to it, right? So it's the people in the Hebrew region and what they're suffering with and what they're dealing with. So there's a tale to be told there. There's a tale to be told in the Death Mountain area. There's a tale to be told in the Zora area, and so on. So each of these stories can be very compelling.
That might be the main way of storytelling through a lot of the game, which will then be like bookended with cutscenes that happen at different times, and then after everything, like after all the dungeons, that's when you'll get like not a linear story, but you get more of the story told to you.
Maybe as to your point, like what they can do is after a certain amount of dungeons you acquire or tiers you acquire, an event will occur that maybe you just learn more about. Maybe you get, like, for example, like maybe that the hand thing, maybe it's a character that talks to you, and when you acquire a certain amount of tiers, it reveals more about what's going on in the world, and you learn that way, right? Or maybe after a certain level of progression, you learn where Zelda could be, and that's like a story point that, and as you progress with that storyline,
you can start to communicate with her.
Yeah,
in some way.
Yeah, like maybe that maybe there's separate like main quests, right? Like maybe one main quest is to acquire the tiers. And then after a certain point, you get like a hot tip on where Zelda's at, and that becomes another main quest line. You can do them in kind of however order you want, but each one has their own.
I wonder if they'll ever check back in on Ganondorf in the story, because we often see, like in Breath of the Wild, when you defeat a divine beast, like the game gets harder, like the world itself. Like, you'll see harder enemies and harder versions will appear. It would be interesting if they did a similar concept with the dungeons, but they actually like checked back in on Ganondorf's progress, because he's like all mummified. But will he get all rehydrated? Will that be quick? Will that happen over the course of the game? Will we get to see that? Like, I feel like they gotta check in on Ganondorf sometimes too, in cutscenes. That can happen just after you do a certain amount of dungeons.
Because he will be up in Hyrule Castle, so what is he doing there? It would be weird if we just see him as a corpse in the beginning, and then see him as like the real Ganondorf at the end. It would kind of be like a Twilight Princess kind of thing, where there's no build up to Ganondorf.
You know, it's another interesting idea. Like, what if, like, based off progression, right? Ganondorf attacks you, and the thing is, the way it's an overworld boss fight, and because it's an overworld boss fight. Yes, based off your progression, it would change where that overworld boss fight happens, but it wouldn't really mean that much. Like, what if like Ganondorf just possesses a Lionel, right? Or replaces a Lionel location with like his puppet, and you just have to fight that puppet, you know, or maybe it's something that chases you for a little while until that event occurs, you know, and it's just something they kind of program for based off whatever area is at, but it wouldn't be that much to do because there's a lot of wide open areas. It would just have to be a wide open area where you could have a boss fight, and basically your progression would just change the scenery of that fight, and that would be pretty much it, right? But there could be a few of those moments that instill like kind of like this rivalry between Link and Ganondorf or what have you, and between that and maybe this separate quest line that's learning more about Zelda, and then each dungeon having their own dedicated stories that happen on their own but tangentially are connect, right? And then also throughout progression, as you obtain more tiers, maybe you get a flashback or a story told to you by the Bunny Zonai. So you have these different things that tell you story based off a certain level of progression you have in the game, but they're all happening in different ways. But together, they are kind of building this plot,
Right.
as you progress. And I think that actually would work out really well. And if the end game just has like a really strong like end game story sequence, so they have a really strong opening story sequence, really strong end game story sequence, and they just have 3 or 4 different like quest lines that as you progress, there's some updates to those stories that affect each other tangentially. Like that would work pretty well. Like I would say Pokemon Scarlet and Violet kind of did that, where there were kind of like 3 phases to the game. Like there was the intro, then there was 3 quests you had to do, and they each would kind of have, there was like, little story beats throughout, but they were they weren't significant. But then the final sequence of the game was like sort of a linear story, but it was just the final sequence, so the game was still ultimately open. Like they can do that, and I think that would actually work out really well.
Yeah, I think that could work. Yeah, a balance of freedom and linearity, and a balance of like engaging story that's in the present as well as backstory that happened in the past. Because Breath of the Wild, I felt was like way too open, way too non-linear. I mean, it wasn't bad, but in terms of a narrative, it felt too non-linear and way too much happened in the past.
Yeah.
So if there's a balance of both of those, I think Tears of the Kingdom could be like the best of that Breath of the Wild formula.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, like, I feel like they can do this and still keep the entirely open, like, dungeon design. Like, they can still do dungeons entirely out of order. Like, let's say you get a tier from the 7 dungeons, and there's 7 tiers. Like, it doesn't matter which dungeon it is. Every tier, if it's your 2nd tier, you get that story. If it's your 3rd tier, you get that story, right? But that story is just coming from maybe the Bunny Zonai, right? But there's still the separate individual story of just doing that dungeon, and they're not necessarily related. But once you finish all like the cutscene stuff for that dungeon, right, then you'll get a story from, or a flashback from whoever is this green hand thing. It's like 2 different stories being told, and it doesn't really matter which one you do.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we have left because I want to talk about Fire Emblem as well, but I had one quick little Tears of the Kingdom theory that I wanted to share.
Sure.
And it's a very out there theory. I highly doubt it will happen, but it's just like a cool Zelda fan service theory.
Let's do it.
I call it like it's silly. I call it like Legend of Zelda No Way Home, kind of like how all of the links will kind of come back to help Breath of the Wild Link in the end. So what if all the places, like the dungeons you're visiting, are the spirits of the prior hero helping rebuild the Master Sword and kind of saying like, hey, this is how I tackled Ganondorf in my timeline back when I had to fight Ganondorf. And they're imparting wisdom and they're imparting their power into the Master Sword, and then they kind of have their own way of like helping out in the final boss fight. I highly doubt this will happen, but it would be, as a Zelda fan, it would be kind of cool.
I'll tell you that I remember a while back we heard that there was a voice actor that did something for
Daruk's ancestor,
for
right?
Daruk's ancestor.
Yeah.
So
What if it's Darunia?
Yeah, now that's not
Yeah.
Link, right? It's not a Link, but it is an old sage.
Yeah.
So there could be something to the idea of making a connection to a sage from long ago. And I don't know if that's going to bring in necessarily Link per se, but it is the case that the sages in previous games have been used to power up and/or forge or restore the Master Sword, right? Like they've had an impact on that in previous games. So I kind of see that happening. I just don't know about including other links. That's the part that we don't know. But maybe if anything that gives the idea some credence is that we do have like that tapestry that includes that link from a time long ago that we do not know or recognize. So
yeah.
It'd be strange
I
having
just-
different links with different art styles all in the same game.
Oh, that would be interesting. I
Like
just think it would be cool
Spider-Verse.
for those links to be like, hey, this is how I tackled Ganondorf when the world was flooded, or this is how I tackled Ganondorf when he had the power of Twilight or something. I don't know. It would be very fan servicey. I don't think a lot of Zelda fans would really like it, but at the same time, I think it would be kind of cool.
Well, that's not. They kind of did that in Twilight Princess.
Hmm.
Twilight Princess,
Sort of.
you learn the seven
Hero
different.
Shade.
The hero shade
Yes.
is a previous
Yeah.
link. That's not debate, that's not speculation, it's not theory, that's confirmed information. That is a previous link, and he instills upon you 7 different sword techniques that do
You're
give
right,
you more
yeah.
abilities. And the thing is, if Tears of the Kingdom is anything like Breath of the Wild, if you're getting new abilities throughout the game, those abilities are probably abilities you don't need, but they definitely improve your experience and give you more options, right? Like just the same with just like the champion powers. So, you know, if each sage gives him a new ability, maybe it's the sage that imparts their own power, maybe it's a flashback where you learn some sort of a sword. It could be like learning from a link. I'm going to assume it's from the sage and not like another link, but that possibility is there.
Yeah. A lot of Fire Emblem Engage has kind of sparked that theory back in my mind.
Yeah,
But
which is ultra fan service.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
But
safe for no dating, but you know,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't really
did
care
wanna-
about that.
Yeah, same. I did want to talk a little bit about Engage before
Yeah.
I finish off here, but for me, like as a Fire Emblem fan, I have been playing since Awakening. So I started with Awakening, and then I played Fire Emblem 7, the Blazing Blade or Blazing Sword on like the GBA version, and then I played Three Houses. Then I tried Echoes shortly before Engage released, and then I played Engage finally. And Engage really reminds me of Awakening in terms of its vibe, its story, its characters, and the gameplay as well. Because the gameplay is very centered around like weapon triangles, strategic placement, and all that. But I think the combat and the tactics are amazing with like the different class types, the ones that can like chain guard and the ones that can chain attack, and although all that like customization and stuff is really good. I think the small nitpicks I have pertain to there's some confusion I have with changing classes and weapon proficiency, where I think Three Houses did it much better in terms of like any character can use any weapon and upgrade that weapon type and then change their class. And then another thing is like the whole bond fragments in SP. I feel like it's really hard to get those. And then whenever I use them up, I'm like, oh, now I have so little. I need to grind so much to get more. But otherwise, I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm fairly early on. I just beat Chapter 9 like a few hours before I joined this Discord.
I think I'm slightly ahead of you.
Yeah. I've heard Chapter 10 and 11 are like big story points, so I want to like prepare before those. But otherwise,
Chapter 10
I'm really
was a
enjoying
doozy.
it. And
It took me a few days.
Yeah.
I kept losing, or I'm playing on hard, and I
Yeah.
kept like either like dying or losing a character I didn't want to lose. I ultimately accepted that I had to lose at least one person.
Yeah.
So, because the thing is, like,
Because you're trash.
yes, well,
I also own the fact that I'm not very good at Fire Emblem, but it's still fun regardless.
yeah. The thing is, for like, I don't know if it's because I'm playing on hard, but like there's always like this one character that's like one of like the bosses of the map, and they have just ridiculous range, and they can just pick one random person and crit them and they're dead. Like if they get a crit, there's nothing, they're dead.
Yeah. The boss can either use like magic from super far, or they have like a flying unit and they can like go all the way across the map. It's crazy.
I don't remember this happening in Awakening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What also kind of pisses me off is that I feel like the computer picks someone they know they can kill. Like they don't they don't
I mean,
pick
that
the
is
dude.
smart.
It is and it isn't, because it just feels spiteful. It feels like, you know, when you're playing a board game with someone and you know you're gonna beat them, right? Like you're going to win, and the person knows they're going to lose. But what they decide to do is, instead of trying their best to turn the table so they can win, they just do everything they can to make sure someone else wins and not you.
Yeah.
So in Fire Emblem, sometimes the computers are like, oh, I can't beat your best characters. I know you're trying to fight me, so I'm gonna actually walk away from you and pick one of your weaker members and just kill them. So that way I can at least take someone down with me. Like that's what they do.
It's like
That
the guy
hurts
who's
even
playing
more.
Fortnite and shoots the down guy before
Yeah.
and gets killed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like what
it's
you
like
said
that.
about them going for the weaker characters hurts even more because you're like, oh, I want to level up those weak characters in like this tough environment so they can like kill off the units that have like lower health, and then they just get killed off themselves, and you're like,
All
yeah,
that
but
investment for nothing.
yeah. But speaking of that, it's been cool bringing back like weaker characters that I kind of like benched and bringing them back in and putting like a really overpowered emblem ring on them and them being like super overpowered now. Because like Louis is like the armored knight guy, right? I didn't use him for a very long time. And then randomly today I was like, hey, I'm going to use Louis again. And I put Sigurd's emblem ring on him and he was near invincible. He like doubled his movement, obviously, because he had Sigurd. But every single enemy that was attacking him, it was like 0 damage going against Louis. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that I made him this strong. So that's
And then he
that's
gets
cool.
hit by one mage user and dies.
Yes, yeah, that's the unfortunate reality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the armored classes just get torn by
Yeah.
mages, and then the thing is, the mage users will be riding a wyvern, so their range is just ridiculous. They'll come from the
Oh,
other side of the
God.
map, and they'll hit twice and kill you. There's nothing you can do about it except start over.
Yeah, yeah.
Rough.
Yeah, the mages and the Pegasus Knights are the worst because there was a skirmish I did, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and all of the enemies were Pegasus Knights, and that was one of the toughest fights I've ever did, and it was a skirmish. It wasn't even like a story chapter fight. It was like a normal skirmish, and all of them were Pegasus Knights, and I'm like, how do you expect me to win?
Better bring some archers.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
I only
sure.
had, at that time I only had Alchrist because I
They
I put
died, or
aside,
you put them to the side?
yeah.
Did they
Yeah.
die, or you just put them to the side?
Oh no, I just stopped using Etier. So
Oh, okay.
I started using Alchrist more because I liked
better?
Alchrist more, yeah. But I could bring back Etier or reclass someone. But like I said, I'm still trying to figure out and get my mind used to the new reclassing system because it was the easiest in Awakening because you like cap out at level 20 and then you reclass, or you can like second seal reclass and then you cap out at level 10 or level 20 or whatever. And Three Houses, I think, again, did it the best, where you level up your proficiencies and then pass the exams and then advance to like beginner, intermediate, advanced, master. But this one, it's like you can do it, but you need the weapon proficiencies. But to get the weapon proficiency, you need to like max out the bond with the emblem ring, and that also takes such a long time. So that's
I mean, you can just like go to the training room, but you have to.
yeah, but that also costs the bond fragments, which I'm like, I need to farm more bond fragments.
Yeah, but if you're petting your dog,
Yes, if you're with Sami, that helps.
you have
And
to have to consistently pet, feed, and dress Sami.
Yes, I've noticed that I feel like I've been spending more time in the Somnial than in the monastery, and that's fine. I think I enjoy the environment of the Somnial more, but there's so many things I want to do in the Somnial, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go back into the world map to fight, and then I'm like, oh wait, I need to do like 5 more things which I forgot to do.
Yeah, you don't have to do anything in the Somnial, but they all help you.
Oh yeah, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I always go up to the ring chamber to see my like skill inheritance and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. Overall, it's a really fun game, and I personally think that the characters are I think Three Houses had better developed characters, but I still really like the engaged characters, and I like the supports a lot more than I thought I would. 'Cause from the reviews,
Alfred is the MVP.
Alfred's awesome.
Alfred is hilarious. The thing, I'm playing it in Japanese, so I don't know how it is in English,
Oh,
but
okay.
Alfred in Japanese, he's just like, he's so extra.
Yeah, Alfred in English is also pretty extra, and I really like him. I just did Alfred and Diamant's support, and that was really cool. I enjoyed that.
I want to see that, because I feel like Diamant's a lot more like straight-edged, and Alfred is
Yeah.
just like, oh, but I have this really good idea, come on.
That's literally the support. He's like, hey, Diamant, you should like chill out more. And he was like, oh, Alfred, how can I do that? And he's like, oh, let me show you. Let's chill out or have some fun together. So that was fun.
Let's just go digging. Because he's gonna think that's fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
No,
Yeah,
Alfred's great. I love Alfred.
yeah. Alfred, Diamant, Yunaka, all of the
Yunaka's badass.
yeah, Yunaka's cool. and all the Brodia characters, I really like all of them. Citrine, Lapis, Alcryst, Yunaka, all of them. They're really cool. And based off of the reviews, I thought the supports would be very bland and like not really interesting, but they're actually pretty fun. So I'm enjoying them so far.
Yeah, I don't hate the supports. Some of them seem kind of bland. And some of like the dialogue in some of the chapters feels like the main chapters. I'm like, okay, it feels like maybe a little light, but there's a mix, because there's also a lot of stuff that I feel is really good, right? I mean, we were just talking about I love Yunaka, I love Alfred, I think they're great, but I also think that some of the story chapters are good. Like the story chapter we just finished is actually good. Like there's
With Ivy and her retainers and all, that was really good.
yeah, no, and then I did chapter 10, and the story definitely picks up. I would say it's pretty good. Now, but I also think Three Houses does focus more on kind of having these in-depth relationships that build, and that's kind of like what you do. Like when you're in the monastery, like that's what you're doing. You are building relationships with these characters. When you're in the Somniel, the goal isn't to build relationships; it's to mess around, maybe have a couple support conversations if you want, and maybe play a few mini games if you want. That will help you a little bit for when you go into the next battle. Like that's kind of like the difference.
I like that they're both unique games in their own way. I love Three Houses for what it is, but I also love Engage for what it is. And I'm still kind of unsure which game I like better, but both of them are really good. But Awakening will always be my favorite Fire Emblem game, mostly because of the memories I have with it. It's my favorite 3DS game, and it got me into the series. So for that, I owe a lot to Awakening as a game. As a Fire Emblem.
No, it's an awesome game. I'm enjoying it too.
All Fire Emblem fans owe a lot to Awakening. To be fair.
Yes, the series itself owes everything to Awakening. I remember, like, I was watching a video, and I knew that it was kind of like a Metroid Dread situation. If it doesn't sell well, they're gonna like cancel Fire Emblem. I didn't know that Awakening only had to sell 250,000 units to be considered a success. But it like sold like 2 million plus, so that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how Awakening was kind of like an awakening for the series. But is there anything else you wanna touch on before we move on?
I think that's it. We did talk for a while. Hopefully I didn't take up too much of your guys' time, but it was fun. Cool. Thanks so much for having me.
Valuable part of the podcast. Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. I enjoyed having you.
Yes.
All right, Nishquick. Well, I'll talk to you in the future, buddy. All right, have a good one.
All right. Later. Have a good one. See you guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Good night. Later.
All right. Let me change this up real quick. Okay. All right. Cool. So, let's jump into a little bit of conversation on this Star Fox thing, a little bit, this concept. So, and then, if you guys in the chat, you guys feel free to ask about Nintendo Direct stuff or Star Fox or whatever. We're going to do a little bit of Q&A after we talk about Star Fox for a bit. Yeah. So, Brandon, were you able to see this video about Star Fox?
No.
Okay,
I
so
was not able to see.
let me kind of explain this thing, and then again, I strongly recommend you check out this video. It's pretty cool. Just check out Did You Know Gaming's video on it. Make sure it's in the description here. So yeah. Anyways, basically, Retro Studios, there was a concept that they had proposed that was going to be a new Star Fox game. This was back in 2013, apparently. So they were finishing up Tropical Freeze, and they wanted to. One of the ideas they were pitching was for Star Fox Armada. And the cool thing about Star Fox Armada would have been a modern Star Fox game, and they were gonna go with the art style they were gonna do was gonna be kind of based off the, not the puppets, like kind of like the not the puppets we saw that were like at a direct, but like
E3, I think.
the like the photorealistic looking puppets, those. Let me see if I can show you what I'm
Don't know what you're referring to. Oh, do you mean the ones that were used for like? Aren't they used for the N64 game
I
in the
think so.
marketing?
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna show you right here. Let me show you guys what I'm referring to. That, like, they were gonna go for kind of like this look, and the thinking was that they could kind of accomplish something like this, even though the Wii wasn't as powerful as like everything out there. It was still gonna look pretty good. Yeah, I think it would have been really cool. Like, it seems kind of creepy, but you know, I'm sure they would have.
Well,
done
I'd
it
go
slightly
check and
differently.
see and look on the stream of what it's showing, but my phone will not let me do that.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm referring to now. That's just the main point.
Yeah, I know what
Yeah.
it is.
Anyways, so they were thinking about going for an art style like this, and you know, in terms of gameplay, it was gonna be a mission-based game. You would be able to explore the Great Fox. You could actually, there wouldn't be any on-foot missions like in Star Fox Assault, but you would be able to walk around and explore the Great Fox on foot. Kind of like the Great Fox would have been kind of like a hub area, kind of like the Somniel and Fire Emblem, right, where you could pick missions, talk to fellow characters, and do side things like that. So you can still kind of get like that in-person experience, or in furry person experience, or whatever. But then the missions would be like the missions, right? But they would also have like a lot of side questing missions out in space. And in terms of story, it was meant to be kind of a reboot for the series, but not like a reboot in the sense of doing Star Fox 64 Zero again. It was going to take place after that. Like, it's meant as a story follow-up after 64. So it starts like after those events. So it would be kind of continuing the series from where it should have been, as opposed to like another like remake or reimagining. And in terms of, you know, going with one of the big things they wanted to do was kind of make this kind of like what Splatoon kind of became for Nintendo, like their premier online experience, which is why they called it Star Fox Armada. So you would have been able to, you know, do like online multiplayer dogfight missions, but you also would have been able to do something like where you're doing a mission and it would be optional, but similar to how, you know, how sometimes Star Wolf will like jump into one of your missions and try and like mess it up. Other people could form their own armadas and jump into your mission and mess it up. So you could like you would be able to jump in.
Dark Souls, it sounds like.
Yeah, it was kind of like a Dark Souls like mechanic where you could jump into other people's games and attack them and engage in a fight.
I don't know if I like that, to be honest.
Well, it was one of a few different ideas, but the idea was to kind of make it like an online multiplayer-centric Star Fox game. Still have that single-player mission-based thing, and you could turn off that online element if you don't want it, but that could all be there. We would have the Great Fox as a hub area. It would have this art style that wasn't quite realistic, but it would be sort of harkening back to that weird pseudo-realistic art style they had for the promotional material Star Fox 64. And it would be continuing the story from that game, not reimagining it for the 5th time, but continuing afterwards, finally. And apparently they thought it was a good idea, but they just didn't think about it much else beyond that, because it goes back to the way things worked at Retro Studios was very top-heavy. This things were made from just Japan, and they didn't have much input from anyone else working there. So this concept didn't happen. And it's really unfortunate, because like we look at like what we've gone from Retro Studios in the last decade, and it's just been Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, and that came out back in 2014. They were working on that, you know, for years before that released, right? We haven't got anything.
Retro Studios and Star Fox have not been doing well lately, or much of anything. And
you know, another thing, and it was just actually this proves a theory I've had about Retro Studios for a long time. The idea, like, and I don't think it's intentional, but something they alluded to is that they kind of wanted to reignite or bring back Star Fox the the same way they brought back Donkey Kong Country, the same way they brought back Metroid, kind of reimagining it for the modern era and bringing it back to relevance and prominence from a gameplay perspective. This would have been their third go at that, right? And now we're not seeing that. Although interestingly, even though we're not seeing that, Retro Studios is actually bringing back Metroid again, right? Like they brought back Metroid to the modern era back in the early 2000s, and now they're bringing back their initial Metroid Prime Vision back from the early 2000s again in now the 2020s. That's just how much time has passed.
Yeah.
But, I'll say this, because there has been information suggesting that that they're nearing completion of Metroid Prime 4, and they're already hiring for their next big AAA project. So, if it's Metroid Prime 5, that's cool. But I would love it if they can continue to expand Retro Studios, make it like Monolith Soft, where they have several different developers, and perhaps they can start actually truly working on more than one project at once. And when I say working on more than one project at once, I mean in earnest, not just concepts and ideas. I mean actually developing a game that's going to come out. So imagine they have like a couple of different teams that we're seeing games from them, maybe like 2 games every. Let's say they average 2 games every half decade or something, or a game every 3 years or something like that, where they're making major games that take them 4 to 5 years, but the way they're spaced out, we see almost 2 every half decade. And what if they're bringing back Metroid, but then after Prime remake of Metroid Prime 4, yes, they have a dedicated team that maybe moves on to the next Metroid Prime, but that takes a few years. But in the meanwhile, they also have, I don't know, what if they do bring back Star Fox? Like, how cool would that be? It would be amazing. And I think there's a lot of potential for Star Fox. I honestly really like the Armada idea. I do think Nintendo needs more than just Splatoon to be kind of like a heavy online-centric game. Now, I'll say that I think that there should always be local multiplayer, even if it's just 4 players on, I think that's good. But I do think Nintendo should have more online-centric games. I think, well, I don't think Metroid Prime needs to do it, but Star Fox I think would be better for it.
I like dogfights and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of having like a multiplayer specific mode. Honestly, they probably do better just releasing a online only Star Fox game than they would a single player only Star Fox game.
But have more success. Like, I honestly, what's that Star Wars series? It's like online only, where you just kind of like Battlefront. Like, yeah, I forget which. I think I played Battlefront 2. I think
I've played both the new ones,
but I really enjoyed that game.
Do you mean Battlefield 2 or do you mean Battlefield 2? Because those are 2 different games. Or Battlefront, yeah. Do you mean Battlefront 2 or Battlefront 2? Because those are 2 separate games.
That's very confusing, Brandon. You're saying the same name.
I know, but they are 2 separate games with the same name.
Are they both Star Wars?
Because there's the original Star Wars Battlefront 2. It came out in like the early 2000s.
No, I'm talking about a more modern
Star Wars
one.
Battlefront 2 that came out a couple I'm talking about 6 years ago.
I'm talking about a modern one that you could play online multiplayer with.
Yeah. I know. I was just messing with you.
Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, but I would love that for them to do something like this. Now, we don't know what they're going to do, right? Like, we're talking about the Star Fox idea. It's a canned idea from 2013. We're not saying it's going to happen. But,
yeah,
what we are seeing, though, is that Retro Studios has been hiring like crazy lately. And we go back to what I was talking about earlier in the podcast, how Breath of the Wild, we've seen that the development structure they took with that game was a new direction they took. That's arguably very innovative. This idea that they work on the game, take a break from developing, and play the game, talk about it as an entire team, work on those ideas, come back, play the game, that cycle. It will be interesting to see if this is a concept they adopt across the board with different big projects in internal Nintendo. And what if these philosophies trickle into Retro Studios? What if Nintendo is now taking a little bit more of an approach with their Western studios like Retro Studios, where they do allow ideas from people lower down the totem pole to make it up. So concepts like a Star Fox Armada can be heard and seriously considered. And if it's a great idea, maybe they can make it into a full-on game. Because I'll tell you what, if they had a serious, dedicated effort at making that game, I do think that it would have been way more successful than Star Fox Zero.
Oh yeah,
by
I mean,
far.
Star Fox Zero was not that good of a game, just in general.
Star Fox Armada, that concept comes from someone who had a much better pulse of what would have made Star Fox work in this. I mean, 2013 was at this point 10 years ago, but still would have made more sense for this era than what Star Fox Zero was. You know, Star Fox Zero was kind of it was like, okay, well, I'll take it. It's better than no Star Fox, but it was not what Star Fox needed. It wasn't what was going to make Star Fox successful. So, you know, I'm optimistic, though, that since we know they're working on Metroid Prime 4, supposedly they made the Prime remake, and they've had all these development hires, and we've seen Nintendo change their development structure, at least with Zelda, that there's maybe some reason to believe that maybe there's a little bit of a modernization here, and a kind of like a reform for Retro Studios. And considering that we've also gotten information that from job listings that they're hiring for another AAA project, we could be seeing a scenario where Retro Studios is going to get back at actually giving us games. You know, like they used to give us games. They haven't given us anything since 2014. And who knows? Maybe they successfully bring back Metroid Prime as we expect them to.
This.
And then something
I'll
else
tell
comes.
you this. Metroid Prime 4 is not, in the grand scheme of things, it's all relative. It's not too far away. And Retro Studios, I don't think they can survive going on like they were before. I don't think Nintendo would keep them around if there was just another gap like before. Like, there are going to be more Retro Studio games. And I imagine they'll want to work on those pretty soon. Because, I mean, they've been working on Metroid Prime 4 since 2018, 2019. Announced that early 2019. It's just been a long time, so you have to think they're close, and there's going to be more games after that. Whether they're working on Star Fox or Metroid or something. There's going to be hirings for it. So I'm excited because I do think that Retro Studios, I don't know if it's going to be like a renaissance and it's going to come back super strong, but I think we are going to start seeing more titles from them, and I think the gap is going to be much shorter. Like, I think we're going to see Metroid Prime 4, and then a year or two later, we're going to get another announcement for a Retro Studios game.
Yeah, it would be like I said earlier. It would be cool if we could see, you know, like more than one game coming from them every 4 years. I'm okay with Metroid Prime taking a new Metroid Prime coming out every 4 to 5 years. You know, I mean, especially if like there's DLC and then you have the 2D Metroid, like there's, you know, Metroid, we could still see Metroid with some regularity. I'm not saying I need a new Metroid Prime every 2 years, right? Not asking for that.
Right.
But if it's something that comes every 4 to 5 years and there's other things in between, like that'll be great for Metroid. But if they also give us something else, you know, maybe this time they bring back Star Fox, and then maybe next time they bring back, I don't know, whatever it is. Like there's a lot of potential there. And I'll also say this. I think this is worth bringing up. The Star Fox Armada concept is a very Western concept. And I think perhaps one of the reasons why Star Fox has not succeeded is because they haven't had a Western studio work on Star Fox. It's quality. You know, I think maybe that's the direction they need to go with this.
I feel like Star Fox there's never been a good opportunity for Star Fox to do well since, like, the N64 one. Because, I mean, you had Star Fox Assault on the GameCube, which did relatively okay and was perceived relatively well. But then they tried to do, like, a DS one, which was never gonna be, like, amazing. That was Command, and people hate that game. Because there's like 13 different endings.
Yeah.
And then you got, I think the next one after that would be Star Fox Zero, right?
I think so.
That's on the Wii U.
Yeah.
So when has Star Fox really had a time to shine, or really been given a good team on a good platform?
Right,
Since like the original.
It's really
Well,
sad
not the original, but
because the Wii
N64
was a
one.
successful system, no Star Fox, right? And then Star Fox, and then the Switch hasn't gotten a new Star Fox either, right? But they put a Star Fox on Wii U, the worst Nintendo system. Is disappointing.
And then they botched it too.
They botched it, yeah.
So it's I think Star Fox has just been a really unlucky situation. I think I'm not sure if it's a Western thing or a Japanese thing, but either way, I think a good studio with a good vision behind it needs to be put on.
Yeah, some people bring up Starlink, and I think it's worthy of bringing up. So they had Starlink, and they put in some Star Fox content in there, but it is not a Star Fox game. It's kind of cool, you know. I played it, I enjoyed it, but the Starlink gameplay.
I only played a couple hours.
Like I didn't finish the game. You know,
It's
I
very
feel
repetitive from
that
what I played.
that's the point I was getting at. It is repetitive.
I mean, it's a Ubisoft game.
I would love it though if maybe I think they had a good engine though. Like it looked really good for a Switch game.
Yeah,
like really good.
It's beautiful.
I would love it if they were to take that team, maybe scale down the. I like the solar system concept, and I think there's some ideas that feel very Star Fox.
Off a planet straight into space is always fun.
Amazing, but let's scale it down. Let's make the solar system just like the Lilat system.
Just the Lilat system.
And maybe bring in some online elements, right? Maybe they can have those online dogfights, and they could have they can borrow some concepts from this Armada idea. Like they could do that, but then have the planets, just a few planets, and you can actually explore them, and they are actually legitimate planets from, you know, the world of Star Fox, and have more detail there. Focus more on, make it a little denser, more quality as opposed to just spread out randomness all over.
I would love it if they added on-foot segments that were actually good, like with platforming, like linear levels designed inside of the planets that you could go to, like. Because I think most of the time you're going to be in your ship, but then on the planet, I think there could be like different places that you can get out. Not only towns to explore, but I mean like places that lock you into a certain linear path, which with puzzles or platforming and challenges and things like that.
Star
would be
Fox
really
adventures
fun.
it up. Yeah, I think that you would be in the minority on that, but I also think. I think it really just comes down to execution, right? Because I think some people look at Star Fox and sound like, "Oh no, don't give me on foot missions," but maybe they can make on foot missions work.
Those suck because you were pretty much just on the normal map, and then you could just get out, and you were just running around with like really weird controls, and it was hard to like even see what you were supposed to be doing, and there was never really anything that fun to do. Whereas if you do like specific like levels and missions where the entire thing's designed around on foot, then it makes a lot more sense. Assault just had this like weird thing where they were like, it's on foot, but you don't actually really do anything unique or anything that takes advantage of it being on foot, but you're on foot, so you're really slow.
Yeah. I guess I'm not against on foot stuff, but I feel like it's got to be limited.
I don't know. I feel like on-foot stuff takes it to the next level because I think just having it in your ship, I think that you can make a good game out of that. But I think like having the on-foot sections would take it to the great level.
Yes.
I think they would be short. I think they'd be like
Eon's
15, 20
Star Cat. Hello, the new main character of the Star Fox series, Ruby.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if they had like 15 to 20 minute long like side missions that you do on foot that you find throughout the world. Like places where you're like, oh, I gotta go explore this, but my ship won't fit. Better get onto my ship. You go in and then there's like a little mini 15, 20 minute experience. That's like catered and polished and, fun.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my thing is that if you're gonna have on foot stuff, that's a whole other like system to kind of like build around, right? You have to build the flying segments, and then you have to build the on foot stuff. And if So when I say it being limited, if it's limited, there's not as much you have to take into consideration, right? Like
I imagine these as like separate areas. You're either loaded into them or you're otherwise restrained where you cannot leave like the zone of the puzzle area, dungeon, whatever you want to call it. I don't like the idea of just you can land anywhere on the map and explore. I think it'd be fine, but for Star Fox, I don't think it would work very well. Like, I want the only time you can get out of your ship is to specifically to go into this area, to do this thing, and then you get back in your ship. And there's nowhere else in the overworld to explore.
Alright, I got an idea for you.
Outside of your ship.
I got an idea for you. So what if, like, they have, like, this gimmick, right, in the game where you can briefly get out of your ship, but only for a short amount of time because of oxygen, right? Like, you have, like, a little mask or something you can kind of wear, and it's like, there's a limit to it. But there's, like, it's like a cool mechanic they make. Like, it can even be something you can use during a dogfight. Like, say, for example, you're having a dogfight, and you get one of your wings blasted. So when one of your wings are blasted, it's firing, right? You're like, oh man, we've lost functionality in our right wing. You can get out for 30 seconds while it goes into an autopilot mode, right? Where it kind of just, doesn't crash, but doesn't shoot. And you could jump out and fix the wing very briefly. Or maybe you could take this opportunity to take your blaster and shoot from outside your ship very briefly too. Like, it's not as strong, but like there's like little things that can be done. Like, they create gameplay scenarios where this is relevant. And maybe, to your point, this can even extend to during certain segments you can get out of your ship very briefly. Maybe if you're like in a planet. Like, I actually love the idea of
in the
walkers.
planets you probably have oxygen most of the time.
Well, it depends what depends. There's different I don't know. That kind
well, I mean, on most of the planets you probably would be fine.
It depends.
Well,
it depends.
Several of them at the very least.
But like, they could still have some planets that have maybe like towns that you can explore. So there's like little hub towns you can explore. So there's a few of those that has side quests and stuff. But during most of it, it's just limited exploration for brief amounts of time. To your point. But the focus of the gameplay is still mostly flying around. But they kind of add this little nuance to it of getting out of your ship briefly. And I'm still all about transformations, right? I love that the R-Wing can turn into... One of the cool things about Star Fox Zero is that they brought back the walker concept. That was amazing. I would love it, if the R-Wing could become a landmaster or become a walker. Maybe it doesn't have to become the landmaster, but I know in Star Fox Zero, I think the landmaster is its own separate thing.
Yeah, it's something.
But I still like that flexibility, right? Like, maybe if you want to kind of run around to the fly, you turn into the walker. But if you need to do something more it requires a little bit more precision, or it's a smaller area, then you can then jump out quickly on foot. But it's meant to be very brief. And then you still have you can still walk around normally, maybe like in the Great Fox or a few towns as hub areas with side quests. Like, that would be fun.
I want the places to explore to be very like carefully curated though. Like, I don't want it to be quite like Starlink where it's just like, I think like if flying around, I think there can be like different levels of exploration, right? Because you have the exploration of your ship flying around on the planets, but then you can find something that lets you like explore on foot. But again, I don't want it to be like you can just get out at any point and explore everything on foot. I think it'd be like specific areas. I don't know. But I think definitely having on-foot segments would be preferable. I don't know, it depends on how they do it, but I would like that.
Yeah. But let's wind things down here. Is there anything else I want to kind of say on Star Fox, Brandon?
No. I want to see a new game, and I hope they give it the polish and a good dev studio and budget that it needs, because it has not really got that.
Yeah, how amazing would it be if they were to announce a new Star Fox on a Direct? It would be amazing. Yeah. No rumors. There's nothing suggesting Star Fox about to be announced. It's just, speculation and for fun. I mean, eventually there will be a new Star Fox. It's not like there's never going to be a Star Fox. Someday there will be a Star Fox. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Probably. Hopefully.
Yeah. But yeah, guys, we're pretty much at the end of the stream. I'm just gonna take the next few minutes just to do a little bit of Q&A, check on the chat. So if there's any ideas you guys want to talk about very briefly, put in the chat now, and we'll wrap things up. Melfi Sky Anatomy, Star Fox Zero HD port with normal controls.
Still not a good game. Like the base core experience is just not that great. I mean, it's fine, but why?
Like,
I'll tell you, I have no desire to play that game again. It was a fine enough experience once, but I've literally zero desire. I've played Star Fox 64 a million times. I'd rather just go play that.
Yeah, I prefer Star Fox 64. I would, like, yes, they could do things to it. It would make
literally zero desire.
But
like, honestly, there's so much of that game that honestly, like, aggravated me. Like, I was having negative amounts of fun a lot of times.
Part of it is because of the Wii U gamepad stuff, but also it's kind of what made it unique, right? So if you kind of strip that stuff down, what game... They would have to add new content. I just feel like it's one of those things that if you need to add new content to make it a good game, that's... just make a new game. Right? It would be one thing... Listen, I understand that we've talked about how Nintendo's been adding a lot of new content to remasters and stuff, but these are already good games. Star Fox Zero, I don't consider to be like I enjoyed the game when I played it, but it had its hurdles. I don't think it's aged really well. Yeah.
If I was gonna rate it real quick, I'd give it like a 4 out of 10.
I don't think it's that bad. I think I actually gave it a review back in the day.
5 out of 10 is just like average game.
I gave it an 8 out of 10 back in the day. I'm pretty sure.
What the heck is wrong with you?
It was recency bias.
Oh my gosh.
It was recency bias.
Oh my
Also, back then on the Wii U.
That was Wii U era. So,
right. Back then on the Wii U,
for
like
Wii U,
having a Nintendo game was like, oh my god, it's a game, right?
There's games. What?
Yeah. Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah. Mad Lad, maintenance has been scheduled for Thursday. Okay.
I don't really know if that means much.
Yeah. Guy Dono Atomy, have you ever heard of X Zodiac? It's an upcoming game that's a spiritual successor to the original Star Fox with a low poly art style. It looks very promising and it's going to be on the Switch. I will have to check that out.
Not heard of it. X Zodiac?
I have seen something like that for F-Zero though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Mark that compete. The Hylians attacked the Zone and eradicated them. Thus, Sheik lost her people. Therefore, the errors made by the royal family would allude to the tears of the kingdom. Royal family does have a history of doing some stuff, so that is a possibility. Robert Powell, Star Fox and F-Zero pretty much need a prime treatment, so to speak, where they had the Western appeal that brings the series up from, since they don't seem so popular with the Japanese fan base. Yeah. Nope, do not put your paw in the cup of water. It's my water. Don't do that. That's my cat. You can't see her, but she's going for my water. Alright. I see a super chat here from Taker610. Thank you very much for the super chat, Taker. Taker says, I think we'll get a good amount of Tears of the Kingdom stuff in the Direct, but we'll also get confirmation of a special Tears of the Kingdom Direct with a multi-hour treehouse. I do think we deserve that, but I am spoiled.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna get treehouse. Maybe when they do the Zelda Direct, there'll be treehouse gameplay after that, but I don't see any reason for them to do treehouse after this Direct.
Yeah. My expectation is we're gonna get like a 5 to 6 minute segment on Tears of the Kingdom. It's gonna make a 3.5 minute trailer. They're gonna talk. Anuba's gonna talk about it for a few minutes, and then announce a couple things like Amiibo and stuff. And then we'll also let us know that more details are coming. And I think we get a Tears of the Kingdom Direct a month before the game comes out. If they somehow fit a trails between that, I mean that's just cake and cherries on top. You know, it's cherries on top. But I don't. I'm not expecting it. Let's see here. Kuro Kamino. The problem with Star Fox right now is that the fan base is scattering what they want. Some that just want to be in the ship, and others want moments out of the ship. So for me,
Just do both.
I just want a good Star Fox game. I am open to all sorts of ideas. You want to make it like Starlink, but more condensed, proper Star Fox? Let's do it. You want to make it where it's just basically a remake of Star Fox 64, but you actually continue the story? Let's do it. You want to do something entirely different? I'm open to that too. I remember the rumored Star Fox Grand Prix concept. I was open to that. Like, at this point, just do something. Just do something that's new. Like, it's kind of why I was okay with Star Fox Zero back in the day, because it was better than nothing. But in hindsight, I think, just do something good. Just do something good. I think, I think, you know what? I'll say this. I think the Star Fox fan base will agree on this. There needs to be online multiplayer. I think that's something that Star Fox needs. I think having the dogfights, I think you need to really build on that and make that into something.
It's a huge complaint about Zero.
And you know what?
Pretty much any multiplayer at all.
You don't even have to do anything that insane. I think maybe, create a modern version of the typical sort of arcade style single player where you have like, 6 to 8 different missions, and there's a few branching paths, and you can beat it in a handful of hours each time. But each time you do it, maybe you can get high scores, unlock different like skins or costumes or vehicles and stuff online. And online, there's a dedicated multiplayer mode, both local and online. And that's just, the wording there was awkward, but point is they have multiplayer that's both local and online, and it does its thing. You have online dogfights, and they can mix that up a little bit, maybe with some of the ideas we talked about today or something else. You can just do that, and people would enjoy that. I don't think they have to completely reinvent the wheel for Star Fox, and if they want to, I'm okay with that, but just give us online multiplayer. I think that is kind of what most of us can agree on would be best for the series. Let's see here. Ian Eons, can we talk about Pikmin 4? I'm down. Don't have a lot of time
what
left.
What about it?
Yeah. I think they should give us more Pikmin. I'm all for more Pikmin stuff. I do like the idea.
I think we'll see it in the direct.
Like I said earlier, 50-50. Like, they're going to have to tell. I think it's coming out this year, so yes, I think it was details. But they either give us details in the direct or they give us details in a later direct. One or the other.
I think we'll see it in this direct.
I hope. I think one of the things is, consider that we don't know much beyond Tears of the Kingdom. They do need to tell us about games after Tears of the Kingdom. So Pikmin 4 has a pretty good chance. So maybe I'm more than 50-50.
The September direct.
Yeah.
Barely. They were like, oh yeah, and this exists. And then moved on. Like, I think they're going to want to actually... I don't think they're just going to not mention it. Oh yeah, pretend that didn't happen.
Sometimes they skip games. But, maybe Pikmin 4... to your point, I'll say this. If it's not a big major game, Nintendo usually has a shorter announcement to release window. And considering that Pikmin 4 was announced in September, maybe it's coming out this summer. Maybe it's like a July game. And if it's a July game, then yeah, they need to give us like a proper dedicated trailer for Pikmin 4. So you know what? I'm actually gonna give it. I'm gonna say yes. We do get a Pikmin 4 update during this direct. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. If we'd seen literally any actual gameplay of it in the September direct, then I'm like, okay, maybe they can skip it. But they didn't show us anything other than like some panning shots of what looks to be an in-game environment, and that's it. So we don't know anything about how this game actually plays.
Yeah. Nishant Kelkar, why do you think Nintendo Miyamoto is so obsessed with Star Fox 64 concept gameplay? I don't know if they're obsessed with it because they haven't really done much of it. It's actually interesting, right, that they keep revisiting it, because you'll see sometimes Nintendo make an argument, oh well, for F-Zero we haven't done F-Zero because we haven't had a good idea for it. But then whenever they've gone back to Star Fox, they just kind of redo the same story.
I think they're just trying to recapture the same magic, and they don't know how.
I think it comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of why we like Star Fox.
Yeah.
you know, Star Fox, you know, maybe I'm mistaken on that, right? But I feel that Star Fox was cool. Star Fox 64,
Oh yeah,
it was a game that you could
I
just
was
jump.
playing it
Go on.
the other day, and there was something I noticed, and it's true about a lot of N64 titles. Is there's a certain like grittiness to them, and it's not just the low fidelity nature of it, but there's a lot like dark and yet bold colors and like more grungy looking environments and places, whereas like a lot of Nintendo stuff today is like clean and colorful. They were colorful, but in like a lot of a darker, more like mature look to them a lot of times, and you don't really see that in the later Star Fox games. They're a lot more just like the general Nintendo colorful kind of stuff. I miss that like gritty, almost scary
You know,
Nintendo.
that's another
back in the
interesting.
64
It's
era.
another interesting thing. Like back then, Star Fox 64, like it wasn't like necessarily a cartoony art style. I think it was intended to have a little bit of grit, maybe. I wasn't even thinking on that. I don't need it to be
semi-realistic style that they went for.
And you know, it kind of goes back to the Star Fox Armada concept. They wanted to go for something that wasn't like completely cartoony either, that had some semblance of realism, but in a pseudo kind of way, like not straight up, but you know, something that's kind of in the middle, which would look really cool.
Story for Star Fox 64 is also, I mean, it's very subtle, right? Because they don't like just telling you a story throughout. You kind of have to like listen to the dialogue and get all the endings and figure out what happened. But I mean, Star Wars was constantly just like making fun of the fact that they killed your dad. Constantly, the whole thing. There's like a lot of just death and like messed up betrayal and things, and they are constantly just making fun of you. It's just for this like a lot of dark stuff that happens in this story if you think about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's a lot more mature in that sense.
Mhm.
I would like something. The dialogue in Star Fox 64 is some of like the best dialogue in any
it is
Nintendo
fun.
game. It's like so good.
It is fun.
I was also just marveling. This doesn't have anything to do with Star Fox Future, but I was marveling the fact that they had voice acting on the N64 for that game.
Right. A lot of Nintendo games
So
didn't.
good. That game would not hit nearly as hard if there was no voice acting.
So, you know, going back to what I was saying though, I think what was so great, part of what made Star Fox 64 kind of pop, was that it was cool, right? It had this voice acting that, you know, people kind of vibed off of, and there's a little bit of a cult following there. It had for the time, the art style wasn't just straight up cartoony per se, even though, you know, in hindsight you may argue it's that, but you know, dated hardware, right? But the promotional material was something in between. And the game was very pick up and play. You can just jump straight in, you know, have a good, fun arcade romp, and you can go back in again, go for a higher score, find some branching paths, have a slightly different experience, and that was fun. But it also had the multiplayer.
You can have a vastly different experience. Your first run versus like actually doing branching paths after that, there's a lot of paths too.
Yeah. So,
I think there's like 3 different runs you can do essentially.
Yeah.
Like main runs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were multiple runs. I don't remember exactly, but I think there's multiple planets you can kind of do, and it was kind of like a little bit of a webbing there.
I think there's sort of 3 endings. So you have like the first ending. If you don't do like anything, you just are kind of like screwed. But I know there's like the true ending, but I think there's like an in-between ending as well. If you do some things, I'm not sure.
I'm looking at a map. Okay,
you can go like the left route, you can go the middle route, and you can go the right route. Not necessarily true. It kind of just depends on how you do or where you go.
Yeah, let me show you guys here. This is kind of I think this was for Star Fox 64. So, yeah, like you can see the lines. There's easy, normal, hard. and so you can do things different ways, right? That depending on how you play the game, it will make it harder or easier. But anyway, I think that you got to make something that's just cool. Like it's got to be fast paced. It's got to be action. It's got to have multiplayer. It's got to be pick up and play. Do that, right? Okay, this may seem like a bad comparison, but hear me out. Call of Duty. I'm not saying it should be Call of Duty, right? But what was cool about Call of Duty is that when it came to multiplayer, right, you just jump in, you have a few matches, and there you go. Like that's it, right? And that's how a lot of games are. And then for Star Fox, you don't have to have this massive development effort where you make this 50 to 100 hour campaign with side quests and stuff. Like, I would love that. We've talked about that. We've entertained the idea. I would love that. But you could just make a proper arcade style like Star Fox 64 with the branching paths, but your progression in it, or what you accomplish in it, unlocks more options in multiplayer that's also online. And there's some unique little gameplay things they do within the gameplay, right? Like maybe like slightly stepping out of your ship to repair, or maybe do some brief on foot missions. Maybe they have those walker transitions with landmaster transitions. Maybe they can even include like that Dark Souls like thing where maybe ships can jump in from other teams and you could form squads and stuff. Like, there's things they can do within that framework. It doesn't have to be this giant, massive, like super expensive project.
There is one more way I think Star Fox can, and I think eventually should go, because Nintendo needs more of these type of titles, but a linear story-driven experience. Nintendo has very few of these, actually, if you think about it. Like, they have linear games, they have linear experiences, but they don't have a lot of... they don't really have like any of those kind of like
Xenoblade?
PS4 class or PlayStation class, and that's not necessarily the same, because that's like an RPG. It's that you do 100 hours. There's a million quests. You just try to do the campaign, take you like 60 to 80 hours.
But the thing is,
I'm talking like a
what Nintendo
12
does.
to 20 hour curated story experience.
They're more focused on gameplay ideas, right? So they might put story around that, but if it's not based off a unique gameplay concept, I don't think they're gonna do that. It's just not what they do.
You can just do both.
I get what you're saying, but that's not their development philosophy. Like, the way they handle development is they build games off of cool concepts. So
but Nintendo needs to have a variety of types of games with a variety of types of what was the word you just used? Development concepts, or whatever you said.
Philosophies.
Because I do think that I think they could use, at least, they don't need anything. Nintendo's doing fine. But I think it would be better if Nintendo had like actual story-focused single-player experiences that don't take you 60 to 80 hours to beat.
Sure. Well, the
and I think they
Dread.
can have great. I think they can have great, really unique gameplay experiences. In fact, shorter games can often have the most unique gameplay because you only have to do it for so many hours.
Well, to that
having
end, right?
Story does not ruin having gameplay. They're not mutually exclusive items.
Yeah, but to that idea, like, for example, Metroid Dread, I think, has pretty good story. It's not like a long game. It's a super replayable game. And I'm assuming you probably brought this up because maybe that's what they could do with like Star Fox, right? They could make it like a cool story, Yeah. Yeah. Like they could fit a good story within that.
I think they should do like eventually they should also do a spin-off series where it's like on foot, more of a shooter. Because Nintendo has like Splatoon, but they also could use a shooter.
Sin and Punishment, baby.
Yeah, that too. But a sci-fi like Star Fox on foot shooter could also be really good.
Yeah, Sin and Punishment is sci-fi, by the way.
I'm not saying I wasn't mentioning anything about Sin and Punishment when I said that.
All I'm getting at is that they could just, if they want a traditional like third-person shooter, they have one. It's called Sin and Punishment. So,
Hmm.
you know, they could
I mean,
bring
they
that
could
back.
do a first person as well, but
Yeah, it's called Metroid. No.
Metroid is one of the only. I would describe Metroid as kind of what I'm talking about, like a linear single player. I mean, it's not completely linear and it's not completely story, but something like
Yeah.
Metroid with more story focus, not focus, but just more story in general.
Metroid Dread is
Something like
pretty
that.
good story. So,
Well, there you go. I mean, kind of
yeah.
like that, but not a 2D game,
Yeah.
obviously.
well, story. Have you played Dread yet?
Not yet.
You should. It's definitely a gameplay heavy game though. I'm not gonna say it's like heavy story. What was I gonna say? I honestly don't remember what I was gonna say. We're near the end of the podcast though, so gotta wrap things up here. I wish I could remember what I was gonna say, but I just don't.
I don't know.
Um,
But honest,
also, by the way, F-Zero GX has a lot of story, so
Skyward Sword is actually almost this. There's so much story in that, like actual cutscenes and things, like a actually followable story that's really exciting.
yeah.
I guess I just want more really good stories from Nintendo because we have like Xenoblade and things, but a lot of the stories from Nintendo are just not that great, or they're just like there to service the gameplay, which is fine, but you know, go a step further sometimes.
Earthbound would be cool. Like, Earthbound is a good story.
Yeah, that like cool characters and
Right.
things.
It's like a kind of a mystery, kind of figuring it out, piecing everything together. Guy you don't know added me. I think what Star Fox needs more than anything is to expand and innovate its gameplay formula in thoughtful ways and to take more risks, story-wise. Alright, so Star Fox Command took a lot of risks story-wise, and I think maybe that was an issue for it. I guess I want them. I mean, I'm okay with them taking some risks, but I want there to actually be. I don't need branching path stories. I want one story. I want one story. That's tricky though, because Star Fox does have branching paths where it's maybe the way they can build it. Depending on how, like the main plot is the same, because the beginning and end are the same, but you get more context on the going on to what's happening depending on which branching path you take, which is kind of how it is already. Yeah.
How it already works.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think they can. I do agree with what you're saying, like where it's like not that hard. I think they can just build on the same story concept that they had, just add more characters and add more events that can come in and add more branching paths, and then you pretty much have like the formula that they have. They never really iterated upon except like side steps. They never really went forward and added a bunch of new things or evolved the concepts. They kind of just did the same concepts, but again.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Well, I don't know. I think we've kind of reached the. We could continue, but we're already past 3 hours, and we may get a direct announcement tomorrow. If it doesn't happen, well, it'll happen sooner or later.
Fingers, toes, legs, body, whole thing crossed.
Yes.
I'm like,
and just to recap, because I know people ask these questions, but the idea is they will announce a direct at 9 a.m. Hopefully tomorrow. It'll happen the next day at 5 p.m. So a Nintendo Direct at 5 p.m. Wednesday,
Eastern
February
time, mind you.
Eastern time. I'm on Eastern time, so that's why I keep saying that. But yes, Pacific time would be 2 p.m. Yeah. And by the way, El Nini, I saw your comment from earlier. We will cover the Pokemon Presents when that happens. We do talk about Pokemon as well.
I'm sure that's going to be in the
Yep.
week it always is. Around
Fingers crossed, we shall see what happens. You know, I hope it's tomorrow. We will see, but we don't know. But we'll Only got a few hours, then we'll know.
When it happens, we'll be hyped. And
We'll
if
be
it
hyped.
doesn't happen, well, we'll still be hyped because it's coming soon. Anyways.
Yeah. Watch. They announce the direct tomorrow, and it's like tune in for an update on titles coming out throughout the spring, including a focus on a brand new Star Fox title.
Imagine if they said, look forward to an update on games coming out, except Tears of the Kingdom.
Yes.
Like they did for Starfield in the latest developer direct for that's what they called it, the developer direct for Xbox. They literally were like, we're gonna show off everything except our biggest game's not gonna be there.
So weird. It will be somewhat like with the Mario movie direct, where they're like, oh yeah, we're tuning for this, but there will be no information on any games at all. So don't think we're gonna tease you a Mario game during this direct.
Right.
Right. But the thing is, Tears of the Kingdom is already a known thing. It is coming out this May.
We need to know.
Yeah. So we're getting information on that. Nintendo, who was that one Black Panther from Assault who would always try to seduce Crystal during dogfights? I found him pretty weird but funny. I think his name was just Panther? I really don't remember.
I don't know. I never played Command. Or Assault? Is it? It was in Assault or
Yeah.
Command?
Assault, Star
I don't
Fox
remember
Assault
much about Assault apparently.
Team
So I don't remember
Wolf
that at all.
members.
I only played Assault there one time.
I'm literally
on
Googling it because
emulator.
I don't remember. I think his name was just Panther. You had Leon, Wolf, and Panther. Leon was Chameleon. Like, Chameleon.
The Great Leon!
Yeah. So, Panther was just Panther. That was his name. So, yeah. Yeah, I actually really liked Star Fox Assault, by the way, just for I realize we've kind of, like, spoken a little bit. I thought it was really cool. I really enjoyed the multiplayer. I think had they expanded on the multiplayer, made it online, that would have been really cool.
The flying segments in Assault are pretty decent, but the on-foot segments suck.
I remember feeling a little annoying, but I still really enjoyed the game.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Could have been a lot better, though.
Kuro, I don't remember the Star Fox Assault story too much, but I'll say this. Aperoids. Alright. That's it. I'm done. Alright, guys. Call it a good night. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you could leave a like, that'd be super appreciated. If you're new here, please subscribe. But, I anticipate there will be more streams this week. And even if there's not a direct announcement, there will at least be one more stream this week, because I always do a stream on Thursday now, so... But hopefully Brandon can join us if there is a direct later this week. We shall see.
I'm gonna be very sick, whatever day the direct is.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys.
Alright. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Bye.